Chapter 1. Betrayal and Revenge. In Xianan City, a bustling metropolis, a five-star hotel stood like a dazzling pearl along the street. Today, the hotel was buzzing with activity. The grand wedding of Lin Fan, CEO of Hanhai Group, and his wife, Su Yufei, was in full swing. Business elites, socialites, and movie stars, guests from all walks of life were converging on the venue. However, behind the scenes, where a well-oiled machine should have been running smoothly, chaos reigned. The bride, the very star of the wedding, was nowhere to be seen. "Lin Fan, call Yufei right now and find out what's going on," a middle-aged man said anxiously. He was Lin Fan's father and one of the primary organizers of the wedding. "If she's stuck in traffic, we'll send a helicopter to pick her up." "Okay, Dad," Lin Fan replied, taking out his phone and pretending to dial Yufei's number. In reality, he quickly hung up without placing the call. Lin Fan knew very well why Su Yufei was late. She was at a hotel, wearing her wedding dress, with her ex-boyfriend. As the CEO of Hanhai Group, Lin Fan's life was a whirlwind of meetings, plans, and contracts, leaving him little time to rest. His friends often joked that he was destined to be alone. But then, he fell in love. His love interest was none other than his secret crush from high school, Su Yufei. She was Lin Fan's first love. During high school, with his towering height of over 6 feet and his handsome, chiseled features, Lin Fan never lacked admirers. Su Yufei was different. She was beautiful and pure. The first time he locked eyes with her, Lin Fan knew he was captivated. But youth is bittersweet. They never got together. That is, until one day, Su Yufei came to work at his company. Lin Fan couldn't contain the feelings he had harbored for years. Ignoring everyone's opinions, he began to pursue her relentlessly. He went to great lengths to fulfill her every wish. When she wanted a Chanel bag, he bought out the entire counter for her to choose from. When she expressed interest in design, he promoted her to the company's art director. When she wanted to travel abroad, he took half a year off work to travel the world with her. A year after they met, they became a couple. But he didn't know that confirming their relationship would be the beginning of a nightmare. In the next 5 years, they seemed to grow further apart. Su Yufei often gave him the cold shoulder. If he tried to hold her hand, she would pull away. If he tried to kiss her, she would take several steps back. If he tried to be intimate, she would lock the bedroom door. When questioned, her reason was always, "I'm very traditional, I can't give you that." She also said that she wanted to protect Lin Fan from the media, so that tabloids had no news to write about. Lin Fan, a healthy man in his 20s, had needs that were not being met, and with most of his less successful friends having kids, he felt a deep sense of frustration. But out of respect for Su Yufei, he held his tongue, hoping things would improve after they got married. For years later, after 10 years of running, they were finally taking the leap into marriage. He thought Su Yufei would mature after becoming a wife, but a shocking event occurred that infuriated him. No one would have imagined that Su Yufei would leak the company's confidential information to a competitor and repeatedly embezzle company funds. Because of her, the giant Hanhai Group suffered severe reputational damage, its cash flow was disrupted, and its stock price plummeted. It didn't take long before it went bankrupt and was forced into restructuring. As the person in charge of the company, the Lin family's wealth, amassed over many years, was wiped out. His father, driven to anger, suffered a heart attack and passed away. As he dug deeper, he discovered that Su Yufei had been in contact with another man during their relationship. And that man turned out to be Li Shang, the football player whose team was sponsored by the group. He was also Su Yufei's ex-boyfriend. "So that's how it is. You two worked together, causing my family's downfall, rendering us homeless." That night, he stood on the top floor of the group's building and jumped. Slowly opening his eyes, Lin Fan was pulled out of his memories. His eyes held no joy of a groom, only burning anger. Su Yufei ruined his family and his life. Now, reborn in this life, he would get his justice. After many years in business, he had come to understand one truth. If you are disloyal, don't blame me for being ruthless. On the surface, he was still the same. He played the part of a loving boyfriend, radiating tenderness and consideration. But in secret, he was gathering evidence of her infidelity. To collect proof, he subtly purchased the hotel that Su Yufei frequented. With the help of the hotel owner and surveillance footage, Lin Fan captured images of his wife with another man. He picked up his phone and opened WeChat, the message from the hotel owner. "Brother, it's definitely your wife. I saw it clearly. But let me give you some advice. Cherish good women, Get rid of the bad ones as soon as possible. With your situation, you can find a woman easily. Don't be sad for her. Don't be heartbroken for her. It's not worth it. Below was a video of his bride-to-be with Li Shang, both smiling and holding each other. Su Yufei, in her wedding dress, completely unaware of her status, forgetting she was about to marry Lin Fan, not a woman anyone could call. Lin Fan replied simply, "Thank you," and then, clutching his phone, headed to the backstage area. He sent the video to a staff member and joked easily, "This isn't a sweet moment between my wife and me, is it? Don't worry, I trust you. Okay, please make sure to keep it a secret. I don't want anyone else to see the video beforehand. Don't worry, I'm a professional." The staff member, copying the file, took a few extra glances at the man in front of her. Lin Fan, in his finely tailored black suit, with his broad shoulders like a wall. At over 6 feet tall, he was simply perfect. Such a handsome, rich man was actually getting married. Such a pity. She fantasized in her mind that if only Lin Fan would notice her, what a wonderful man he was. That bride was simply ungrateful, though beautiful and charming. Her family background was not good enough. Many people said she wasn't worthy of Lin Fan, and she had to agree. She was also late to her own wedding. How could anyone think well of her? If it were her, she would cherish every moment with Lin Fan, and never ruin such an important moment in her life. Okay, Mr. Lin, your surprise is ready. Your wife will definitely be moved to tears. A surprise. It truly is a surprise. Lin Fan knew that there was no turning back. The video would spread throughout the country. He did not care about the chain reaction. Friends said he was easygoing, but that was only because he did not want to bother about trivial matters. But when the people closest to him betrayed him, he would not tolerate it. Chapter 2. For the rest of my life, I will walk with you. Yufei, you look so beautiful today, Li Shang said, his hand lingering on Su Yufei's shoulder, then moving lower. Su Yufei brushed his hand away. I'm driving, be careful. After leaving the hotel, Li Shang offered to drive her to the wedding venue, and she didn't refuse. She had never had freedom growing up. Her parents forced her to study and then to marry someone she didn't love. Lin Fan, Li Shang, and she had gone to the same middle school. Lin Fan had been handsome in school, but he had been quiet. Li Shang was different. He was cheerful and always on the playing field. They had made eye contact during a football game, and she had fallen for him. She became his girlfriend. They had separated for various reasons, but Su Yufei couldn't forget him, her first love. Even when she and Lin Fan were a couple. If there had been no Lin Fan, would she be Li Shang's bride? Yufei, what's wrong? Nothing, just thinking about some unpleasant things. In the car, Li Shang's eyes revealed a hint of defiance and confidence. Yufei, let me make you happy. He pressed on the accelerator, and the Lamborghini roared like a wild beast, speeding down the road. Su Yufei cried out, "You're speeding. The police will catch us." It's fine, the car isn't mine anyway. The roaring engine shook Su Yufei's eardrums. With the adrenaline pumping, she felt strangely excited. Yes, she loved excitement. What was the point of a boring life? Faster, go faster. The Lamborghini ignored all rules, weaving left and right on the road, drawing envious glances from those they passed. Whose wedding is that? What a show. It's the wedding of the CEO of Hanhai Group. I tell you, the bride is very lucky to marry into a wealthy family, the dream of countless women. I wonder what the bride is like. Is she beautiful? Anyone who gets Lin's attention must be a kind, pure girl. The convoy quickly arrived at the entrance of the 5-star hotel. The people greeting the guests shouted, "The bride is here." Li Shang took Su Yufei's hand and helped her out. Yufei, I can't walk this road with you. I wish you well. Maybe we'll meet again in the future. Su Yufei had tears in her eyes. She even felt an urge to throw away her bouquet and run away with Li Shang. But she managed to control her impulses. She looked up at the magnificent hotel entrance, but her mind was filled with a different scene. Stepping through the door, she would become Lin Fan's bride. For the rest of her life, she would not have to worry about money. Was this really the life she wanted? As she was lost in thought, a familiar but unfamiliar figure appeared before her. It was her groom, Lin Fan, dressed in a suit, exuding extraordinary charm. However, Lin Fan didn't look as gentle as usual. His eyes held a sharp and resolute look. Why are you so late? You should have told me that you were in traffic. I would have taken a helicopter to come get you. Lin Fan took Su Yufei's hand and kissed it lightly. Perhaps she was addicted to lying. Su Yufei forced a smile. I didn't want to trouble you. You are very busy, she said. She reached out to adjust Lin Fan's tie. They walked hand in hand into the magnificent hotel. To onlookers, they were a perfect couple. No one would have guessed that behind the facade of love, there were countless lies and betrayal. Lin Fan scanned the crowd and caught a glimpse of Li Shang lowering his head. His expression immediately turned cold as ice. He gently squeezed Su Yufei's hand and whispered in her ear, "Yufei, who drove you here? What do you mean?" Su Yufei was startled. She looked up at Lin Fan's determined eyes. Facing Lin Fan's eyes that could see through her, she instinctively began to look away. She thought, had her date with Li Shang been discovered? That couldn't be. They had been very careful. To hide her anxiety, she looked directly at Lin Fan's eyes and questioned, "Are you suspecting me? Suspecting your future wife?" "I'm telling you, it was my lover who drove me here. Are you happy now?" Su Yufei did not try to hide her annoyance. She pulled her hand away from Lin Fan and walked towards the wedding hall. "Lover, huh?" Lin Fan wasn't as flustered as she expected. He threw away the glove that had been touched by Su Yufei. He also walked into the wedding hall. The rest of the wedding ceremony proceeded smoothly until... Now, let us watch the sweet memories of the newlywed couple. Are you all ready to be overwhelmed by their love? The wedding MC held out the microphone to the audience. "We're ready." The crowd erupted with cheers and applause. Backstage staff began to play the video that Su Yufei had pre-recorded. As the soothing music began, the screen slowly lit up to reveal a quiet office scene. The camera slowly zoomed in, eventually reaching an antique desk where someone lay sleeping. It was the groom, Lin Fan. Su Yufei's voice began to speak. "Everyone, look, it's our Lin Fan. He came all the way here to sleep. Is he really okay with leaving a beauty like me all alone?" Laughter broke out in the audience. Lightly taking off her coat and covering Lin Fan, her tone changed. "But I love him like that. Someone who doesn't have many social connections. I had never experienced the sweetness of love until Lin Fan appeared. He was accepting, understanding, and loving towards me. At first, I couldn't believe the CEO of Han Hai Group would like a country girl like me, but that's what he told me. Love knows no boundaries, no poverty or status. For the rest of my life, I will walk with you." At that moment, I fell in love. From that moment on, my world only revolved around Lin Fan. I couldn't live without him, and wanted to be with him every second of every day. In this holiest of rituals, I want to express my feelings with this song. I just started learning the guitar, please don't laugh at me. For the rest of my life, the wind and snow is you. The ordinary is you. The simplicity is you. The prosperity is you. The gentle heart is you. Wherever my eyes see, it is you. Chapter 3. If you are disloyal, don't blame me for being ruthless. Su Yufei's singing was melodious and beautiful, touching the hearts of the guests. That girl is so sincere. It looks like Lin Fan is marrying a good wife. Yes, in her singing, I could hear her love and 100% trust for Lin Fan. It's a shame she's not a singer. You seem to know a lot. Who are you? I'm Guo Huqing, the one who sang, "I Can't Get Enough of Your Love." Once the song finished, the audience burst into thunderous applause and cheers. Seeing all the celebrities applaud for her, Su Yufei's mood improved. She began to enjoy her wedding. Although she knew that, "For the Rest of My Life," wasn't sung for Lin Fan. Still, she could not help but turn to see his reaction. No expression? How was that possible? Usually, if she cooked a meal for him, he would show his happiness. And she had learned to play the guitar and sang for him. Remembering the strangeness of Lin Fan today, Su Yufei became worried, very worried. "Darling, it's your turn next. I'm so looking forward to your surprise for me," she said, taking Lin Fan's arm and resting her head on his shoulder. Lin Fan said faintly, "Then you'd better be prepared. You may not be able to handle my surprise." With that, he gestured for the staff to play the video that he had prepared. Unlike Su Yufei's carefully prepared video, Lin Fan's video was blurry and had no sound. Judging from the scene, it seemed to be in a hotel hallway. No one appeared in the video at first. The guests were all baffled, wondering if they had played the wrong video. Then Su Yufei suddenly paled. "Stop it, the wrong video is playing," she cried out anxiously. When she saw the video continuing to play, without stopping, she rushed to the control panel and yelled at the staff. "I said the wrong video is playing. Stop it now. Did you hear me?" In her desperation, she tried to grab the master copy of the video, but the staff were already unhappy with her. They did not stop, but actually increased the volume. And so, the guests, including all of the families, witnessed this scene. Yufei, you're getting married. Are you not worried your husband will be mad that you came to a hotel with me? It's because I'm getting married that I have to have one last fling. Li Shang led the woman in a wedding dress into room 520. The timestamp in the lower right corner showed the date as May 20th, which was today. The crowd erupted in uproar. On the eve of the wedding, the bride is in a hotel room with another man. The Lins have really picked a good wife. Disgraceful. So ill-mannered, completely lacking shame. Interesting. Their daughter-in-law is having an affair. Old Lin will probably be sick with rage. Lin's father, in a fit of anger, slammed his fist on the table, roaring, "Su Yufei, how dare you do such an outrageous thing?" My dear friend, calm down. There must be a misunderstanding, Su Yufei's parents said anxiously. Su Yufei's parents were also upset. They hadn't expected their daughter to be so promiscuous. She had let down not only the Lins but their future son-in-law, Lin Fan. "I apologize to you. We did not educate her properly. We are to blame," Su's father said, kneeling. His frail body, worn down from working in the fields for years, trembled. But Lin's father had already made up his mind. The Lin family's reputation could not be tarnished. He couldn't have a daughter-in-law like Su Yufei. He walked up to the stage and picked up the microphone. "Guests, I apologize for making everyone witness this farce. It is an unfortunate event. My son has unfortunately chosen the wrong woman. Please, do not record this." After calming down, Lin's father made the sensible choice. "I declare this wedding is cancelled." When the words, "wedding cancelled," entered Su Yufei's mind, she felt the sky had collapsed. No, the wedding could not be cancelled. Su Yufei grabbed Lin Fan's hand and tried her best to force a pale smile. "Lin Fan, I beg you, please talk to your dad. I can't live without you. I will die without you." But when she saw that Lin Fan was still indifferent, she could no longer control her carefully maintained composure. All the negative emotions she had been accumulating finally exploded. Lin Fan, you ruined me." She grabbed the microphone and yelled to the guests and even her parents, "Cancel it then. I never wanted to marry him in the first place. Don't think everyone is after money. I'm telling you, I don't care about your Lin family's money. I'm not afraid to tell you, the video of my confession was fake. I never liked Lin Fan, the CEO of Hanhai Group. I can live well without you." As soon as these words were out of her mouth, the entire venue erupted. Everyone turned to look at the protagonist of the drama, Lin Fan, wanting to see him make a fool of himself. Lin Fan, however, merely looked at Su Yufei coldly, as if she were nothing more than a clown. He did not speak. He showed no emotion. He simply ripped off his tie and walked off the stage as if what was happening was not happening to him. The news will spread quickly. The Lin family will face a great backlash. The Lin family's bride has cheated. That's going to be a big news story. I think the Lin family's stock will fall. I need to get rid of it quickly. With the wedding cancelled, the guests began to leave. For these business tycoons, it was just an amusing show. Even Su Yufei's parents were furious. They said, "We don't have a daughter like you," and then angrily walked away. Only Su Yufei, wearing a wedding dress, the bride of this wedding, was left with a blank stare. She was lost. She had shouted out the truth with all of her might, her voice filled with emotion. But no one paid attention. This shouldn't have been how it went. She had always been the star of the show, and now felt a deep sense of loss. Excuse me. We need to take off the tablecloths." The words of the cleaning crew completely broke her. She squatted down on the stage and began to sob. Her cries were heartbreaking. In the past, there would have been a caring, gentle Lin Fan to comfort her, to cheer her up. But now, no one noticed her distress, and no one would offer her a tissue. The staff, arms crossed, all looked at her with amusement. She understood why the rich were rich. It wasn't just about the money. It was about the power of their influence. Su Yufei had thought it was her beauty or talent that made her worthy of the Lin family, but it had only been Lin Fan's affection for her. Without Lin Fan, Su Yufei was nothing. A song called Red Rose was very fitting. She added it to her playlist. Is happiness so light, too heavy, overused and numbed? A rotten red emptiness in her eyes. Finally emptied. Finally came to an end. What we can't have will always bother us. Those who are loved have nothing to fear. Because of her self-will and bold confession, Su Yufei had achieved the life that she thought she wanted. In the days that followed, she was a regular feature on the news headlines, Douyin, and Weibo. Her family had blacklisted her, and she was being cyberbullied by netizens. She was exhausted. Just as she was falling into despair, she received a message from the Human Resources Department of Hanhai Group. Miss Su, please come to the company tomorrow. Chapter 4. You are not Lin Fan's only one. Public opinion can easily ruin a person, and Su Yufei had learned this firsthand. For the past 2 weeks, her phone had been bombarded with endless calls and insults, including from some of her close friends. Even more painful was that her family, including her own parents, had turned their backs on her, hanging up the phone as soon as they heard her voice. If Su Yufei hadn't been so strong-willed, the online bullying alone would have broken her, and she very likely would have taken her own life. But she wouldn't commit suicide. During the past 2 weeks of self-imposed isolation, she had thought a lot. She decided to forget everything and focus solely on working hard. Mainly because the bank card that Lin Fan had provided for her had been deactivated, and due to her long-standing habit of high spending, Su Yufei owed tens of thousands of yuan on her Alipay account. Normally, tens of thousands of yuan was nothing. But now that Lin Fan was no longer there to support her, she felt a gaping emptiness inside. As the taxi pulled up in front of the Hanhai Group building, a fashionable woman in a tight-fitting suit stepped out. Su Yufei crouched down to adjust her high heels. Her curvaceous figure caught the taxi driver's eye. But as soon as he saw Su Yufei's face, his admiring gaze immediately turned into a scornful sneer. "Oh, it's the cheating slut," he said. He slammed his foot on the accelerator and just so happened to drive through a puddle. The water splashed up, ruining Su Yufei's carefully applied makeup. "Do you even know how to drive? Didn't you see the puddle?" Su Yufei looked down at her soaking clothes. How could she possibly face anyone now? "Lin Fan, where are you? Hurry up and bring me some clothes." As soon as she had this thought, she froze. She didn't know how long it was before she finally moved. When she walked into the building, "Isn't that the hotel room girl? Why is she all wet, ha ha ha? I bet she's been fooling around with another man." Lin Fan must have been out of his mind to fall for such a shameless, immoral woman. He should have chosen me. "Lower your voice. Don't let the hotel room girl hear you." Everywhere Su Yufei went, she was met with insults and ridicule. Taking a deep breath and straightening her spine, she ignored the cutting laughter and walked towards her office. But she found the door locked, and her employee ID card wouldn't open it. "Hey, why can't I open my office door? You need to give me an explanation right away. You can't afford to delay my work schedule." She angrily called the Human Resources hotline. The response was, "Ms. Su, due to the negative impact of recent events on the company, the board of directors has decided to terminate your employment contract." Su Yufei didn't believe them. She roared, "Let Lin Fan tell me himself." She angrily hung up. "I refuse to believe I can't open this door." She grabbed the door handle, twisting it up and down in frustration. Just then, someone else swiped their employee ID card, opening the office door right in front of her. Su Yufei turned around and saw a girl with a smattering of freckles. She wore round-rimmed glasses, her face full of youthful energy, like a fresh college graduate. Su Yufei recognized this person. She had been a low-level employee under her command, often causing trouble by not understanding protocol. For that, Su Yufei had said a few critical things. She didn't expect this person to be able to open her office door. What was going on? "Why can you open my office door?" "Xiaoyao, you need to explain this to me," Su Yufei demanded. Yao Xiaoming adjusted her glasses and said with a smile, "Miss Su, you've been out of touch for the last 2 weeks. It seems you missed a lot." She pushed the door open and walked straight to the main desk, and sat down right in front of Su Yufei. "You don't seem to know that Lin Fan fired you, and I am the new art director of Hanhai Group." Yao Xiaoming flipped over the art director's nameplate on the desk. Her name was displayed clearly. The nameplate that had previously belonged to Su Yufei was lying in the trash bin next to her, forgotten. Seeing her position stripped from her, and seeing the subordinate she had once looked down on taking her place, Su Yufei's chest heaved. She slammed her hand on the table, staring at Yao Xiaoming with a threatening glare. "I don't believe you. Get up from that chair. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." Yao Xiaoming was not afraid. She slammed her hand on the table and retorted, "Su Yufei, don't act like you're still the boss. I'm not afraid of you. I'm telling you, I'm the art director here now." Yao Xiaoming's eyes were filled with disdain and contempt. She pointed to the door and shouted, "You, get out of here. How dare you talk to me like that? You've gone too far." Su Yufei was furious. She grabbed her phone with trembling hands. "I'm going to call Lin Fan and have you fired." Yao Xiaoming snickered. "I don't mind telling you. The position of art director was given to me by Lin Fan himself. And I'll tell you another secret. She leaned close to Su Yufei's ear and whispered, Lin Fan also said he wanted to take me to his villa. I seem to remember that was your room. This news hit Su Yufei like a thunderbolt. Su Yufei felt dizzy and nearly lost her balance. How could you? Su Yufei's voice trembled. Yao Xiaoming smiled slightly. This world doesn't always revolve around you, Su Yufei. Did you think you were Lin Fan's only one? How laughable. Su Yufei's face turned pale. Suddenly, she realized that her reckless actions had brought her irreparable harm. She turned and walked out of the office, swaying slightly. Behind her, she heard Yao Xiaoming's mocking voice, Don't forget to close the door on the way out, loser. Later, Yao Xiaoming's words echoed in her mind. Did you think you were Lin Fan's only one? How laughable. No, unless Lin Fan tells me himself, I won't believe anyone else. She needed to find Lin Fan, to go to his office on the 20th floor. The elevators were out of order, so Su Yufei climbed all those stairs, one after the other, to reach the 20th floor. Out of breath, Su Yufei, trembling, knocked on the door of the CEO's office. Lin Fan, come out, have a talk with me. The office door clicked open, revealing a young woman in a short skirt and professional attire. The woman asked kindly, Can I help you? I'm Mr. Lin's secretary. Secretary? He replaced me with a female secretary in just a few days. Su Yufei's face flushed red with anger. I'm asking you, where did that bastard Lin Fan go? Mr. Lin is out of the country on a business trip. His flight was last night. The secretary's words shattered Su Yufei's facade of strength. She collapsed to the floor. How annoying. Why are you still here? Yao Xiaoming, carrying some files, walked past and rolled her eyes. Chapter 5. Su Yufei, without Lin Fan, you're nothing. I'm not in a good mood. You better keep your distance, Su Yufei said, her voice hinting at her growing anger. Usually, she had a bad temper. Yao Xiaoming knew this very well. Once, when an employee was late, Su Yufei was in a bad mood, and she went off on him. The 200-pound guy cried in front of everyone, saying he wanted to go home to his mom. From that point on, the employees had given Su Yufei a nickname. Behind her back, they all called her Su the God. Of course, the God did not refer to her incredible abilities. It was the God as in, she was crazy. Everyone at Hanhai Group knew that she had gotten her position through her connection to Lin Fan, and she had no idea about design. Her subordinates were always left to clean up after her. The employees worked themselves to the bone with a salary of $3,000 a month, while the boss spent her days dressing up and yelling at people with a salary of $30,000. Who could tolerate that? The design department had been unhappy with Su Yufei for a long time. They had been so happy to see her fired for the past few days. Especially Yao Xiaoming. She had been promoted several times. Now that she was a boss, why should she be afraid of Su Yufei? Not only did Yao Xiaoming not walk away, she instead moved closer, smiling. Miss Su, do you need me to help you up? You don't look so well. I don't need your fake kindness. I can get up myself. Using her hands to support herself, Su Yufei finally stood up against the wall. Just from climbing up 20 floors, her smooth legs were a little shaky and she nearly fell. Oh dear, my dear sister, be careful. Yao Xiaoming quickly walked over and took her hand. It would be a shame to break such a beautiful butt. After all, it's a valuable and well-selling product. A product was something to sell. Her unspoken words implied that Su Yufei sold her body. Su Yufei pushed her away, pointing at her provocative smile. Yao Xiaoming, how can you say such vulgar things, even though you've read so many books? Do you have any shame? You're truly bringing disgrace to Hanhai Group. I wonder who's bringing disgrace to Hanhai Group? Yao Xiaoming laughed. Do you know how much Hanhai Group lost because of you? Of course you don't, because you only care about yourself. Let me tell you, in the past 2 weeks, Hanhai Group's stock price has fallen by 12%, 300. Orders were canceled. Adding the losses from a failed bet, breach of contract fines, and unsold products, we've initially lost more than 1 billion. Hee, to be honest, your butt is pretty valuable. Over 1 billion. Su Yufei wanted to argue, but she stopped herself. She had never imagined that her mistakes would cause such enormous losses to the company. Over 1 billion wasn't a small amount. But I will make up for the losses I've caused the company. Yao Xiaoming laughed. She had lost her job, and she was still daydreaming. Just then, a middle-aged man with graying hair walked over. Su Yufei felt like she had grabbed a lifeline. She called out, Uncle Chen, you're here? The person was the general manager of Hanhai Group, and he and Su Yufei had a good relationship. He often helped her out, so Su Yufei affectionately called him Uncle. But when this uncle saw Su Yufei, the corner of his mouth twitched involuntarily. This woman had been causing so much trouble recently. For the sake of their past relationship, he forced a professional smile and greeted her. "Oh, it's Yufei. You two are having a friendly chat?" "Sort of. Anyway, I have a few things I want to ask you, Uncle Chen." Su Yufei got straight to the point. "Uncle Chen, can you please put in a good word for me with the board of directors? To get my job back? I know that I made a mistake. I will do my best to make up for the company's losses." "Mr. Chen, hello. I'm Yao Xiaoming from the design department." Yao Xiaoming suddenly spoke and shook hands with Mr. Chen. Without answering Su Yufei's question, Mr. Chen turned to look at Yao Xiaoming. "Hello. I've heard that you're the new art director that Lin Fan hired. You don't look very old. Did you just graduate from university?" "Yes, I have a PhD in fine arts from Tsinghua University and Peking University. I just graduated this year." Mr. Chen's eyes lit up. He nodded with satisfaction. "Good. A true talent. With people like you, Hanhai Group will definitely flourish." "Okay, I have work to do, so I won't take up any more of your time." Su Yufei quickly followed him, asking softly, "Uncle Chen, what about my case?" "Oh dear." Mr. Chen shook his head, implying his helplessness. "You've made such a big mistake. The board of directors has already given you a lenient punishment by firing you. Just accept it. Some things that are lost cannot be regained." "Is there really no way?" she asked again. If she lost her job, she would not have a chance to get close to Lin Fan, and she would not be able to return to her previous standard of living. It was incredibly difficult to go from a life of luxury to one of simplicity. If there was a chance, she would fight for it. "Uncle Chen, I know I'm wrong. Please give me one more chance. I promise that I will work hard," Su Yufei begged, her attitude extremely sincere. Mr. Chen sighed. "All right, I will try my best, but you have to be prepared for failure." "Okay, thank you, Uncle. I'm leaving." Once he was out of earshot, Mr. Chen spat. "She caused so much trouble, and she still wants me to help her? What a delusional woman." He had helped Su Yufei in the past only because of Lin Fan. She actually thought he was a kind-hearted person. Now that she had lost Lin Fan's favor, she was worthless. Let her fend for herself. After Mr. Chen left, Su Yufei's humble demeanor instantly vanished, replaced by a haughty arrogance. She questioned Yao Xiaoming. "Why did you interrupt me earlier? You almost swayed Uncle Chen." "I felt like it. It's none of your business." "You okay, so you're this arrogant now, huh? You won't be arrogant for long. In a few days, once I regain my position as the art director, you will be crying." After saying these harsh words, she walked away, her high heels clicking loudly. Yao Xiaoming nearly laughed. Su Yufei had been in the workplace for so many years. It seemed like she hadn't grown at all. Was she stupid, or was she just naive? Mr. Chen's words were clearly just polite words, and she couldn't even tell. This woman had been their boss for 3 years, and thought it was all due to her own hard work. It was all because of Lin Fan's influence. When thinking of Lin Fan, a handsome image appeared in Yao Xiaoming's mind. For her, he was like a Prince Charming. If only Lin Fan was my boyfriend, I would be willing to do anything. Don't let your imagination run wild. Concentrate on working hard. A few days later, at a luxury mansion in the city center, a stray dog was out early searching for food. As it was walking, a charger flew out of a window and hit its not-so-smart head. It tilted its head in confusion and saw a woman with messy hair crying loudly. Chapter 6. No money, no love, you asked for it. Wah, what did I do wrong? Is it wrong to pursue love? Early in the morning, Su Yufei lost control of her emotions and burst into tears in the mansion that Lin Fan had bought for her. She cried because she had no money and because she was alone. Since she had broken up with Lin Fan, she had no income, but she had more and more expenses. Property fees, utility fees, parking fees, cosmetics, food, medicine. Dozens of different types of expenses were like a mountain that was crushing her. She was only now realizing how hard it was to live when she had to pay for everything. In the past few weeks, Su Yufei's Alipay, credit cards, and personal savings had been completely depleted, and her debt was rapidly growing. 550,000. How did I spend so much? Looking at the messages on her phone, constantly sending her reminders to pay, Su Yufei's eyes started to well up again. She missed the days when she could spend money without a second thought, when buying bags and luxury clothing was no big deal. Now, she had to use coupons to order takeout and carefully weigh the prices of things. No, she didn't want to live like this. She grabbed her phone and was met with a picture of herself and Lin Fan taken on their first date. They had agreed to keep this photo as their phone wallpaper forever. Looking at the photo, Su Yufei's heart was filled with complicated emotions. She absently opened her contacts and searched for a contact named Lin Fan. She pinned it to the top so she could find it quickly in the future. This also showed that she had never thought of Lin Fan as the most important person in her life. Beep, beep, beep. The call had been connected, and she immediately hung up. No, why would I call him? That's so stupid. Su Yufei turned off her phone. It's just a few $100,000. I can easily earn that by finding a job. I can live well without you. Huff. She took a deep breath to calm her bad mood. After a simple wash, makeup, moisturizing, and applying sunscreen, she grabbed her purse and left. June was the start of early summer, and the sun was scorching. Su Yufei got out of the car and began walking towards the job market. Even with her umbrella and sunscreen, she felt like her skin was about to crack. As she expected, when she left the job market, it was with nothing but frustration. The bosses that saw her would leer at her. Miss Su, we have a position in our company that would be perfect for you. You just need to move up and down, quickly and slowly. If you sexually harass me again, I'll call the police. Hey, what do you mean? I clearly meant a game tester. Have you never played a video game before? Others would offer her a salary of 5,000 yuan. She was the art director of Hanhai Group, with a monthly salary of 120,000 yuan. That was clearly written on her resume. What did they mean by offering her 5,000? Without a second word, the boss threw her resume in the trash. Sorry, our company will not hire you. Go back to where you came from. Su Yufei was incredibly frustrated. All she could do was pick up her resume from the trash can and try to smooth out the wrinkles. After spending half a day at the job market, she couldn't find a suitable job. On the way home, she began to doubt herself. Why hadn't her years of hard work as an art director had any effect? The road was very hot, and she hadn't had breakfast. When she walked past the Hanhai Group building, Su Yufei couldn't support herself anymore. Her legs went soft, and she kneeled on the hot concrete. Some kind people wanted to help her up, but when they saw who it was, they stopped. People who cheat don't deserve sympathy. She stared blankly at the entrance, and a memory floated through her mind. It was also summer back then. She had a heat stroke and fainted on her balcony. If no one had noticed her, she might have died. But Lin Fan had shown up in time. He had flown back from another country on a private jet, not caring about the 20 million yuan contract that he had been about to sign. Su Yufei asked him, "How did you know I fainted?" "I didn't tell you." Lin Fan held up a finger and placed it against her lips. "Don't say anything. I'm going to take you to the hospital." "Okay." Su Yufei nodded with tears in her eyes. Later, she learned. The reason Lin Fan was able to get there on time was because she hadn't replied to his messages. He had been worried and quickly came back. But now, she was left to get up by herself, barely managing to make it back to her place. Su Yufei's house was located in the most luxurious part of Xiamen City, where every square meter was worth at least 100,000 yuan. Only the wealthy could afford to live here. Of course, Lin Fan had bought the house. She vividly remembered Lin Fan wanting to live together, and she had refused. Later, he had never come back. Using her face to unlock the door, Su Mengfei tossed her designer purse aside and collapsed on the sofa. The silence in the empty mansion was only broken by her heavy breathing. Looking at the glass chandelier on the ceiling, she felt a mix of emotions, a sadness that she couldn't explain. Suddenly, her phone began to vibrate. It was a call from her ex-boyfriend, Li Sheng. Su Yufei hesitated before answering. Li Sheng's voice was full of worry. "Yufei, how have you been? I heard that Lin Fan. I know you're having a hard time, but let me talk first." Su Yufei interrupted him. "Please, don't say anything. I just want to be alone, okay?" She hung up and closed her eyes. Now she had nothing. Her job, lover, friends, family, they were all gone. Sometimes, she wondered, if she could start over, would things be different? She slept for half a day. When she woke up, it was already 10 p.m. Su Yufei rubbed her eyes and was about to open her phone to order some takeout, when the door suddenly clicked open from the outside. "Who's there?" Su Yufei thought that a thief had broken in. Her face was filled with panic as she quickly sat up. But then she realized that maybe Lin Fan had come to apologize and win her back. Her panic was instantly replaced by joy, which then quickly turned to anger. "What are you doing here? I don't want to see you." Su Yufei didn't go to open the door, but sat with her arms crossed, waiting for Lin Fan's apology. She didn't expect Li Shang to be the one to walk through the door. As the door opened, Li Shang flashed a standard smile. I'm sorry, the traffic was bad. Su Yufei was surprised. It's you? Who else would it be? Or should it be just me? Go away, I don't want to see you. But I want to see you, Fei Fei. Look what I've brought you. Boiled fish. Your favorite. As he was opening the takeout box, Li Shang pulled out a tissue, intending to wipe away Su Yufei's tears. She looked at him with utter disgust and stepped away. Chapter 7. The Ripple Effect of the Hotel Incident. This was the first time Li Shang had seen her in such a state. He couldn't help but ask, Fei Fei, what's wrong? Why are you avoiding me? I know I haven't called you in 2 weeks. That was my fault. The public backlash didn't just affect Su Yufei. It also impacted him, the third party. His job was to play football for Daheng Club, and Daheng Club was sponsored by Hanhai Group. He had a match coming up that would net him millions in prize money. Now, not only had he lost his job, he was also blacklisted from the football industry. No club would dare to let him play for them. The most absurd thing was that the school kids who played football with him before were now disgusted with him, calling him a slut. He wanted to protest that he hadn't been the one to cheat. He was only affected by Su Yufei's scandal. But now, he only wanted to show Su Yufei that he was by her side. Li Shang took a deep breath and said firmly, Fei Fei, I know that you're going through a lot, but I don't think it's your fault. It's Lin Fan's fault. If he were a man, he should have taken responsibility for all of this instead of letting you lose face in front of so many people. And if I'm not mistaken, he hasn't called you once since that incident happened, has he? Su Yufei remained silent, not answering. Not only had he not contacted her, but she also found it incredibly difficult to contact him. Before, he was always the one who would come looking for her. Seeing that Su Yufei was a little calmer, Li Shang opened a set of disposable chopsticks and handed them to her. I know you're hungry. You should eat something. Boiled fish is best eaten hot. It's not so good when it's cold. I'm not hungry, she said, glancing at the food. Li Shang immediately pointed towards the entrance, suggesting, then, let's go out to eat. There's a new Michelin-starred Singaporean restaurant that just opened nearby. So they went to that fancy restaurant and booked a private room. A server came with the menu. Sir, madam, please order. What do you want to eat? Li Shang took the menu, flipped through it, and asked Su Yufei. Whatever, she said. Su Yufei rested her chin on her hand, looking at the city nightscape outside the window. She didn't seem to be thinking about anything in particular. What are your restaurant specialties? Tell me about them, Li Shang asked the server, who was waiting to take their order. Singaporean food was primarily sour and spicy, and their most famous dish was laksa, which had a curry and coconut milk base. Li Shang knew that Su Yufei didn't eat spicy food, so he ordered 2 coconut milk laksas, along with 5 or 6 other dishes. Okay, please wait a moment. The server took the menu. Seeing that Su Yufei wasn't saying anything, Li Shang tried to start a conversation. Yufei, I have a request. I don't know if I should bring it up. It's about football. The football world was not very transparent. Sometimes it was who you knew that would get you into a club. It was all about connections. He used to be a small-time amateur player, struggling because his skills weren't enough for him to show off. There was no chance of advancement with the small-time teams he was playing for. Later, Su Yufei helped him. She knew people in the football world. With her help, he was able to join Daheng Club and given the chance to display his talent. He was grateful and cherished the opportunity. In a few short years, he went from a substitute player to a starting member. If nothing else happened, he would have soon been able to go overseas for further training and maybe even make the national team. But an accident occurred. Su Yufei's scandal had almost ruined his reputation. A player like him, who earned nearly 10 million a year, had fallen to rock bottom. No one could accept that. Li Shang rubbed his hair. He couldn't bring himself to say it. But, for the sake of his career, he finally spoke. Yufei, can you please ask that classmate of yours to help me again? I want to go overseas to play football. I love football so much. I would go crazy if I didn't have football. I can't, Su Yufei said absently, taking a sip of her tea. It wasn't that she didn't want to help, but that classmate was Lin Fan. Back then, she had mentioned that she had a classmate who wanted to play for a big team. Lin Fan had immediately arranged for him to join Daheng Club. After all, Hanhai Group was Daheng Club's benefactor. Arranging a spot for him was easy. And on top of that, Li Shang's football skills were terrible. He thought he was great, better than Messi even. He was nothing more than an amateur, even weaker than the much-criticized national football team. If it hadn't been for Lin Fan, His skill level would have condemned him to sit on the bench at Daheng Club, let alone have the opportunity to play. How ridiculous. He even wanted to play for a team overseas with even more demonic skills. I recommend you find another job. Going back to football is impossible, she said, putting her tea down and zoning out. Li Sheng couldn't just give up. He could make nearly 10 million a year just by kicking a ball around. What job could pay that much? He reached out to hold Su Yufei's hand, but she pulled away in disgust. Not wanting to give up, he pleaded, Fei, I'm begging you. We've known each other for nearly 10 years. Can't you please help me? Su Yufei ignored him. He changed his approach. If you can't help me, how about you lend me 2 million? 2 million was not a small amount, especially since Su Yufei had spent all of her savings. Where would she find the money to lend to Li Sheng? I'm not lending you anything. You make millions a year, and you need me to lend you money? Don't be ridiculous, she said. All my money is locked up in a time deposit in the bank. You know me, Li Sheng said, putting his hands on his head. He actually didn't have any savings. In fact, he was in debt for several million. That was why he had come looking for Su Yufei. He hadn't wanted to be bothered with this woman. Of course, he couldn't show it. Li Sheng said, for the sake of our past love, lend me 2 million. I promise I'll pay you back right away. Truthfully, Su Yufei did feel a bit sorry for him. She still had feelings for Li Sheng. Her apartment in the city center was worth a few million. But when she thought about how she had nothing left except that apartment, she immediately abandoned the idea of selling it. It's not that I don't want to lend you money, but I can barely take care of myself. I don't have any extra money to lend to you. Then you should ask Lin Fan. Su Yufei was stunned. She didn't expect Li Sheng to ask her to ask Lin Fan. Was 2 million more important than her pride? How cold, how cold. Just then, there was a knock on the door. The server came in and said, I'm sorry, Mr. Li, we can't provide the coconut milk laksa you ordered. The kitchen says that we only have the curry base left. Would you be okay with curry laksa instead? Su Yufei grabbed her purse, wanting to leave. Then cancel everything. I'm not really hungry anyway. Wait. Li Sheng, with a stern look on his face, stood up and ordered the server. We want the coconut milk base. Hurry up and get it for us. The server smiled awkwardly. I'm sorry, Mr. Li, there's really no way. Chapter 8. Deep Love, Humble Love. Although the server had repeatedly emphasized that they couldn't provide it, Li Sheng wouldn't give up. He loudly scolded, get it from another shop, or go buy some ingredients. If we don't get our food, I'll report you for false advertising. Go. Hurry up and prepare it. After chasing the server out of the private room, Li Sheng changed his expression and showed a gentle smile. He took Su Yufei's purse from her and pressed her back into her seat. Fei, the food will be here soon. You just wait a little longer. No, Li Sheng. Do I need to make myself clear? I am not going to lower my pride to ask Lin Fan for anything. You can just forget it, Su Yufei said, turning her head and breathing heavily. During the wedding ceremony, she had made bold statements to so many people that without them, she would still be able to live well. If she asked Lin Fan now, wouldn't she just be slapping herself in the face? That would hurt. Don't be angry. I was wrong. I should be punished. He grabbed a bottle of wine from the table, wanting to chug it all. But considering that they were going to a KTV later, he just poured a small glass. He tipped his head back and gulped it all down. After finishing it, he even showed Su Yufei. I drank it all. Can you forgive me? When she didn't respond, Li Sheng felt somewhat depressed, unable to understand why Su Yufei was being so cold to him today. He lit a cigarette and took a long drag. Fei, you actually want to go back to Lin Fan, right? I can tell by your expression. No, you're just thinking too much. Li Sheng laughed and explained. The person who understands you the most in this world, other than yourself, is me. Don't think so highly of yourself, Su Yufei said, pouring herself a glass of wine and chugging it down. This attitude only further confirmed Li Sheng's suspicion. He flicked his cigarette and started clapping. Good tolerance for alcohol. I remember you used to have a low tolerance. I learned it recently. Su Yufei finished her glass of wine. When the wine glass was back on the table, it was already empty. Just then, the food came. Eat something first. You must be starving. We can talk while we eat. Li Sheng pushed the dishes towards Su Yufei. The laksa was actually just soup with noodles. The flavor was pretty good. The noodles were smooth, the coconut broth was rich, and it was served with shrimp, fish cakes, and various vegetables. The taste was delicious. Su Yufei, who had barely eaten anything all day, was truly hungry. She was grabbing some spicy lemon chicken feet while drinking Singaporean milk tea. Enjoying the food, her mood had improved a lot. Li Shang picked up a piece of curry chicken and put it in his mouth. Fei, if you want to get back with Lin Fan, it's actually very simple. He loves you so much. All you have to do is lower your pride, and he'll forgive you. Men, they just want to save face. It's not that simple. Lin Fan is serious this time. He had not contacted her for days, something she would have never thought possible. But Li Shang insisted that if she hadn't tried it, how would she know if it wouldn't work? Did she not know how much Lin Fan loved her? Lin Fan's love. She knew it very well. He would listen to everything she said and do everything she wanted. Lin Fan loved her deeply and humbly. She was his one and only. Sipping on the ice-cold milk tea, Su Yufei's mind cleared up. She thought that there might still be a chance. She just needed to apologize and admit that she was wrong. Lin Fan would come back to her. Seeing that Su Yufei was starting to listen to him, Li Shang continued, "Oh, right, Fei. I recently heard that Hanhai Group will be holding a masquerade ball on the Hanhai cruise ship. Lin Fan will be attending." A masquerade ball? Su Yufei had gone to one with Lin Fan before. Most of the people who attended were young men and women with power and influence. It was an opportunity to meet other good potential partners. And as fate would have it, right after they had broken up, they were holding a masquerade ball. Su Yufei knew what Lin Fan was up to. Wasn't he trying to find another woman? She, as his legally married wife, would never let him do that. When is it? I want to attend. It's the night after tomorrow at 8 p.m. at the Exinen port. But, Li Shang doused her with cold water. You need an invitation to attend the masquerade ball. That might be a problem. But then his tone changed. I have a friend. As long as you give me 2 million. Before he could finish, Su Yufei interrupted him. There's no need. I'm Lin Fan's wife. Do I need an invitation to enter my own cruise ship? Li Shang, okay, whatever makes you happy. The meal took a long time to finish. When the two of them went to the front counter, it was already 12 a.m. Boss, how much is it? I'll pay, Li Shang said, taking out his phone to scan the QR code. Hello, I must apologize. The waiter was a temporary worker and was a little rude to you, the boss said, apologizing. To show his sincerity, he gave them a 20% discount. Oh, we appreciate it. Thank you. After leaving the restaurant, Li Shang's face was dark. Although he didn't think the food was too expensive, he didn't think it was worth it. More than 80,000 yuan for some chicken feet and noodles. More importantly, this meal hadn't helped him at all. He only had to watch Su Yufei's sullen face the whole time. If he hadn't been trying to get something from her, he would have gone to the bathroom and escaped. No, he needed to find a way to make some money. Oh, yeah, Li Shang thought of something. Hanhai Group has been hit hard by the backlash, and its shares have taken a huge tumble. As long as he had some leverage, then money would just pour into his pockets, right? It just so happened that he had a friend who earned money from internet trolls. The two had different intentions as they unknowingly reached Su Yufei's home. Li Shang, with a wide smile, looked at his watch and exclaimed, It's 1 a.m. The subway has stopped. Fei, how about, give me the key. Okay. Su Yufei used Li Shang's key to open the door, and then walked in, shutting the door behind her, leaving him outside. Li Shang's mouth twitched. Damn it, does she really think I want her? Once I get my money, I want to see if she'll still have this attitude, that bitch. He walked away cursing. Picking up Li Shang's key, Su Yufei threw it into the toilet. She had made a copy of this key for Li Shang a long time ago, and she had completely forgotten about it. As the swirling water carried the key away, Su Yufei put the lid on the toilet. Now, the only people who could enter this house were her and Lin Fan. She took off her clothes and got into the shower. The hot water poured onto her body. Su Yufei closed her eyes, and the image of Lin Fan appeared in her mind again. Not caring that her phone might get wet, she tried a different way to find Lin Fan's WeChat. After a few seconds of hesitation, she decided to call him. She didn't expect that the call would actually be connected a few seconds after the music started. Chapter 9. The Superior Su Yufei. Hanhai Group Building, 20th floor, Lin Fan's office. Even though it was 2 a.m., the office was still brightly lit. Facing the door, there was an antique rosewood desk. The documents on top of it were stacked like a mountain. There was a girl sitting in the chair. She was drawing on her iPad Pro, very focused and serious. Looking closely, you could see that the drawing was of a man with a cold expression. It was none other than the CEO of Hanhai Group, Lin Fan. She had always loved watching melodramatic dramas in college, but the real CEO she met after graduation was different from what she had imagined. In dramas, CEOs were surrounded by beautiful women and did all kinds of over-the-top things. Lin Fan was different. He didn't seem interested in women. He quietly devoted all his time to work. Rest? There was no rest. He left work at 3 p.m. and then came back to work at 6 a.m. How did he maintain his energy? Wasn't he tired? She wouldn't be able to take it. Just then, her phone, sitting beside her, vibrated. Yao Xiaoming curiously glanced at it. It was a call from someone named Wife. Does Mr. Lin have several wives? Oh, it's that woman Su Yufei calling. Mr. Lin didn't even delete her. She decided to interfere. Yao Xiaoming directly hung up and sent, "How annoying." Not long after, the person replied, "What's with your attitude?" Oh ho, she still has the audacity to say that, Yao Xiaoming said with a surge of energy. That's my attitude. You can lump it if you don't like it. Ding ding ding, Su Yufei replied immediately. Speak properly. Don't push me to lose my temper. If you had spent more time with me, I wouldn't have been interested in other men. Anyway, it's your fault. I'm giving you a chance. Apologize to me, and I'll forgive you. Yao Xiaoming was stunned for a few seconds, thinking about how thick-skinned this woman was. She was the one who had cheated, but Lin Fan was the one who should apologize. How could that be right? Even she couldn't stand it, and immediately ignored the message. She didn't think that Yao Xiaoming knew that the man Su Yufei cheated with was that Li Sheng. In the football world, he was famous for being a slut, and had too many girlfriends to count. Li Sheng didn't like wearing protection, and had a few illegitimate children. A while ago, the news was going wild about it. Eventually, he was able to make it go away with money. How could Su Yufei love such an immoral man so much? Maybe the two of them were lying on the same bed right now, complaining about Lin Fan. They might say things like, "Look at how stupid Lin Fan is. What's so bad about a man being at a disadvantage?" Sometimes, you shouldn't ask too much. It's better to pretend you didn't see it. How bad, how bad. Yao Xiaoming gritted her teeth and typed, word for word, "Su Yufei, are you trying to disgust me? Think whatever you want. Anyway, I gave you a chance. It's your fault if you don't cherish it," she replied. Okay, so you want to play it like that, Yao Xiaoming said, telling her, "Go be happy with your lover. I'm not going to entertain you." After saying this, she wanted to blacklist the other person. Su Yufei immediately sent another message. Wait, it's okay if you don't cherish the chance, but don't slander me. When was I ever with Li Sheng? That's all in your imagination. Send a video to prove it to me, otherwise, how can I believe you? Yao Xiaoming said offhandedly. Soon, the video came. Why is it so blurry? Where is this being filmed? As the picture came into focus, Yao Xiaoming saw Su Yufei's body, nearly causing her blood to boil. She wasn't wearing any clothes. What was going on? Why was this woman in the bathroom? It had to be said, Su Yufei had a great figure, with a large bust and long legs. Just then, Lin Fan's cold voice suddenly spoke. Excuse me, were you? Yao Xiaoming turned off the phone screen, quickly jumping out of her chair and waving her hands. No, I wasn't doing anything. Lin Fan didn't know what she was talking about. He just wanted to ask her if she was sleepy. After all, it was late at night, and it wasn't very appropriate to have the art director come to the office. But recently, Hanhai Group had been greatly impacted by the backlash. Her workload had increased exponentially. She could only work overtime. Xiaoming, I'm sorry that I'm making you work overtime, thank you. It's fine, I often stay up late. She made sure to close the door. Lin Fan knew what she was thinking and told her, Don't worry, my office is completely secure. Our conversation won't be leaked. That's a relief. Company secrets can't be leaked. Just then, Lin Fan's phone dinged several times. It was clearly the voice messages that Su Yufei had sent. Yao Xiaoming's heart skipped a beat. She couldn't let Lin Fan know that she had been playing with his phone. Just as Lin Fan wanted to pick up his phone, she said, Mr. Lin, I'm a little sleepy, let's talk about work. All right, please wait a moment. I'll turn it off. As the phone screen turned completely black, Yao Xiaoming let out a deep sigh of relief. Come on, I'm a little worked up right now. It's about Su Yufei, right? Yao Xiaoming knew that Lin Fan was having a hard time. After all, everyone at Hanhai Group knew that he was in love with her. And so, Su Yufei cheating was also public knowledge. Although most people sympathized with Mr. Lin, blaming that woman Su Yufei, they couldn't ignore the fact that he had been betrayed. She wanted to say, Mr. Lin, don't worry about what others think. At least I support you. That woman Su Yufei isn't good enough for you. You can look at the people around you. There are plenty of good girls. Lin Fan nodded. Thank you. But that wasn't what I wanted to talk about. Feeling a little embarrassed, Yao Xiaoming immediately thought, Mr. Lin, was it about the new product, the one that Su Yufei was in charge of? Yeah, after she was fired, we need to clean up her mess. Lin Fan threw out a stack of plans. Take a look at this plan. Do you see anything that needs to be changed? A plan? Yao Xiaoming didn't understand. The first step for launching a new product was writing the plan. This involved planning the various parameters of the product beforehand. That way, the work could be carried out in a structured way. Why would a new plan need to come out halfway through? Unless there was no other choice, Yao Xiaoming had some questions. She opened the plan. The more she looked, the more her face changed. She asked Lin Fan in surprise, Mr. Lin, if we follow the new plan, we'll have to redo almost everything. They had been working on this project for almost half a year. Were they going to throw it all away? Lin Fan crossed his fingers. You don't know. There are many competitors on the market that are very similar to our new product. It's not exactly the same, but it's probably 90% similar. How is that possible? Our product is top secret. Could it be? Yes, someone leaked the product information. Chapter 10. Su Yufei, panicked. Hanhai Group was a giant business with its main operations in cosmetics, but also had projects in financial investment, real estate, and entertainment. Their cosmetics were high-end and favored by consumers both domestically and abroad. Their most recent seasonal product was being highly anticipated, even before it had hit the market. The board of directors also had high expectations for it. But now, he was saying that there were similar products on the market? That meant that their product wouldn't be able to compete in the market after being launched. It could even be a complete failure. As the art director, Yao Xiaoming understood the consequences of leaking product information. At that point, they wouldn't even make a profit, they wouldn't even recoup the costs. They had already invested hundreds of millions into this product over the last 6 months. When it came to leaking information, she thought of Su Yufei. The only people who had access to the secret documents were a few higher-ups who were in charge of the product. It really could be her who leaked the information. Of course, she didn't say that out loud. Now, the most important thing was to ensure that the product would be launched smoothly. But, Mr. Lin, after looking at the timeline, I don't think there's enough time. It's impossible to do 6 months' worth of work in 1 month. Lin Fan raised his hand. You don't need to worry about that. We will be partnering with Huachuang Group. I went to the US a while ago to meet their CEO. Huachuang Group. Isn't that the Fortune 500 company, the leader in the cosmetics industry? Yao Xiaoming was very happy. Huachuang Group was even more powerful than them. They were the best in the cosmetics industry. It was said that their CEO had a strange personality, but Lin Fan had managed to work out a partnership with them. How amazing! With Huachuang Group's help, I believe we will be able to launch the product within a month. She was full of confidence. After that, they talked about many things. An hour went by unknowingly. Lin Fan suddenly asked, Oh, right, is your mother feeling better? Thanks to you, Mr. Lin, my mother is doing much better. Yao Xiaoming showed her photo album. There were a few pictures of her that caught Lin Fan's eye. It was a picture of Yao Xiaoming and a woman who looked very much like her. The two were making peace signs and smiling at the camera. People who didn't know them would have thought that they were sisters. And that wasn't so weird because Yao Mom was only 40 years old this year, and she still looked beautiful when she put some effort into getting ready. She looks good. What did the doctor say? Lin Fan handed her back the phone. Yao Xiaoming put her phone away and told him the truth. The doctor said that she'll get another x-ray in a few days, and if her bones have healed, then she can leave the hospital. However, he also said that she can't do any strenuous activity after she's discharged. The bone damage from the car accident won't heal so easily. Thank you again, Mr. Lin. Lin Fan waved his hand. It's okay. It's good enough that your mom is okay. He had been driving by when the car accident occurred. He had just happened to drive her to the hospital. Such a small act, but Yao Xiaoming had taken it to heart. Every time she met him, she would talk to him non-stop. And if she didn't see him, she would leave a note on his office door. Mr. Lin, how are you feeling today? Mr. Lin, I found a huge cockroach. The frontline commander is reporting to you. That's great. Mr. Lin, have you watched Joy of Life? It's so good. She seemed to have endless things to say, and she would share all the interesting things with him. Back then, it was not long after the Su Yufei scandal. Lin Fan, who was depressed, felt a glimmer of hope. As they spoke to one another, they became more and more familiar, and after finding out that she had a PhD in fine arts, he had given her the position of art director, which had been vacant at the time. He hadn't expected that she would become even more outgoing. Was that a good thing? Mr. Lin, what are you thinking about? Yao Xiaoming tilted her head and asked. It's nothing, it's getting late. You should go home and rest. Lin Fan was grateful for her cooperation. She had even stayed to work overtime. Yao Xiaoming walked to the door and then turned around. Mr. Lin, are you sure there's nothing else I need to do? Actually, my side job is as a detective. Lin Fan had several question marks on his head. Why was she suddenly talking about being a detective? She should just go home and sleep. Oh, the young girl said, putting her hands behind her back, leaning forward, with her eyes curving into smiles. Well, see you tomorrow morning, Mr. Lin. Okay, see you tomorrow morning. Faced with such a youthful and cute girl, Lin Fan couldn't help but smile, as if he had returned to his student days. Back then, Su Yufei had also been cute and charming. But now, maybe people do change, he thought. After seeing Yao Xiaoming off, Lin Fan continued to work until 4 a.m., when he finally turned off his computer. Before leaving, he turned off all the lights. He thought of calling the housekeeper and asking him to prepare some food. When he turned on his phone, he was bombarded with messages. Delete the video now? Lin Fan, I didn't know you were like this. I misjudged you. Are you going to delete it or not? If you don't, I'll never forgive you for the rest of my life. Looking at the messages that were hurting his eyes, along with a dozen voice messages with red dots, Lin Fan was completely confused. Did his phone have a virus? As he walked, he scrolled upwards until the video appeared in front of him. In the picture, Su Yufei had a red face and used her arm to cover her ample breasts. Lin Fan didn't know why Su Yufei would send this video to him. Without any emotional response, he blacklisted her. At a mansion a few kilometers away, Su Yufei still hadn't received a reply from Lin Fan. Her emotions were becoming unstable. There could be two outcomes to sending that video. If Lin Fan saved it and watched it privately, then everything would be fine. But if Lin Fan spread the video online and everyone found out about it, then it wouldn't just be a social embarrassment. Li Shang could also find out about it and leave her. Although the two of them had some issues, Su Yufei still couldn't forget him. It was all because Li Shang was her white moonlight. She opened her phone and typed, Lin Fan, so you don't want to apologize, huh? Fine, I'll give you another chance. As long as you delete the video, I can forgive you, for the sake of our love. She had prepared the words to send, but then Su Yufei saw a few red exclamation points. A small exclamation point made her heart beat quickly. Lin Fan, how dare you blacklist me? Su Yufei bit her lip, tears welling up in her eyes. Being blacklisted meant that Lin Fan didn't want to apologize. He even wanted to cut ties with her. Thinking of this, Su Yufei felt a little panicked. Maybe she shouldn't have been so stubborn. Men also needed pride. But words said were like water that had been poured out. There was no way to take them back. I don't want to. Su Yufei buried her head between her legs, unable to hide her emotions. If we can't be husband and wife, can't we be friends? Lin Fan, you'll regret it. Chapter 11. Su Yufei, you are not Lin Fan's only one. Su Yufei was in a terrible mood. Her very existence felt questionable. She hadn't expected Lin Fan to be so heartless, blocking her contact without a second thought. That night, she suffered from insomnia. As a result, her mental state was exceptionally poor the next day. Currently, she lay in bed, idly scrolling through her phone, when she suddenly thought of Yao Xiaoming, and a wave of panic washed over her. Could it be that Lin Fan had been seduced by her, hence his unwillingness to apologize? No, she needed to get to the bottom of this. Unfortunately, Lin Fan had blocked all her methods of contacting him. Frustrated and with no other choice, Su Yufei found Yao Xiaoming's WeChat and launched a barrage of messages. Yao Xiaoming, tell me, do you like Lin Fan? I advise you not to waste your efforts. Your figure and looks aren't enough to get close to Lin Fan. The person he likes is clearly me. Although she and Lin Fan were temporarily separated due to some misunderstanding, they had, after all, been married. They were a legal couple. Even if they couldn't be husband and wife, couldn't they at least be friends? This wasn't jealousy, nor was it creating trouble. It was the helplessness of a wife dealing with a cheating husband. After some self-hypnosis, she finally managed to put herself on the moral high ground. Seeing that Yao Xiaoming wasn't responding, she called her expression impatient, like a wife about to confront her husband's mistress. The call actually went through. Su Yufei, her eyes glued to the phone screen, unloaded a torrent of questions. Yao Xiaoming, why aren't you replying to my WeChat? Are you feeling guilty? A lazy, lethargic voice, punctuated with yawns, drifted from the other end of the line. Who is it? Don't you telemarketers ever rest? It's only 6:30 a.m. I'm still sleeping. Hearing that Yao Xiaoming was still asleep, Su Yufei was filled with foreboding. Her mind conjured up an image of the two of them in the same bed. Lin Fan caressing Yao Xiaoming's alluring body. Little enchantress, you were excellent last night. From now on, you'll be my only one. What about the sister-in-law then? I'm so gorgeous. Won't the sister-in-law be jealous? Haha, you're pure and kind. You're exactly my type. As for Yufei, we'll ignore her and continue with our happy life. The two embraced intimately as passion ignited. The more she thought about it, the angrier Su Yufei became. Her beautiful face turned ashen, as if she'd swallowed something rotten. She ground her teeth and furiously demanded, "Put Lin Fan on the phone." Lin Fan? Yao Xiaoming scratched her head and, after checking her phone, made a sound of understanding. Can't do it. With a dismissive tone, Yao Xiaoming yawned again. She was just too tired. She had stayed up until 3 or 4 in the morning working last night. She had no energy to argue with this lunatic. She simply replied, "No, you can believe it or not. I don't believe you. If you hadn't seduced Lin Fan, why would he block me? If it weren't for you, why would he leave me?" Haha, Su Yufei, you are truly incorrigible. I told you a long time ago, you're not the CEO's only one. Are you really going to wait for the CEO to bring other women in front of you before you give up? On the other side, Su Yufei stared at the text messages, her fingers hovering in midair, unable to reply. She just stared blankly at the words, sinking into self-doubt. The sentence above seemed to shatter the protective layer around her heart. You're not the CEO's only one. Su Yufei ruffled her hair. Didn't we say that we would be better off without him? Su Yufei. So what if you're not the only one? You are an awakened woman. You can live independently without relying on any man. Deleting all of her chat history from this morning, Su Yufei regained her usual glamorous and elegant composure. Standing in front of the mirror, she meticulously put on her makeup. However, her occasional use of the wrong cosmetics and her near shaving of her eyebrows were proof that her heart was far from calm. Beautifully dressed, she confidently walked out the door. Today, she was wearing a fitted black suit, with a simple shirt underneath, which gave off an aura of confidence and competence. For her bottom half, she had chosen a knee-length skirt, paired with breathable black stockings. It was sexy but not flirtatious, just the right amount of everything. She intended to make a grand entrance at the masquerade ball, when everyone would surely be impressed. Turns out, without Lin Fan, Su Yufei could also live well, even better. With this in mind, she posted on her social media feed. Another day of flying around. Su Yufei, you got this? The accompanying photo showed her at the airport, pulling her suitcase. She believed that when Lin Fan saw it, he would think that blocking her was the biggest mistake he had ever made. Reaching the ground floor, Su Yufei hailed a taxi. Just this morning, her inbox had received an invitation from the president of Yalanj, China, inviting her to shoot a promotional video at Yalanj's largest store in Xinan City. She hadn't refused. Others were unaware, but she had worked as a model for some time. When she wasn't working, she would model as a way to pass time. Yes, it wasn't her main profession. Since she learned that Lin Fan had recommended her modeling work, she still remembered when Lin Fan had suddenly told her that Yalanj was planning to have her as their spokesperson. At first, Su Yufei was very moved, thinking that her own efforts were finally being recognized. After all, since she was a child, she had always admired those beautiful women on television, believing that the ability to express one's beauty and display one's charm was a very fulfilling thing. Because of this, during that time, she had a very good impression of Lin Fan. Looking at him, she felt like living with him wouldn't be so bad. But after finding out that it was all Lin Fan's arrangement, she became very resistant to modeling, even disgusted by it. What right do you have to control my life? She had said. No, Yufei, I absolutely didn't mean it that way. If you don't like it, then don't go. In reality, Su Yufei felt that Lin Fan's arrangements made her lose face, as if she was a beggar. As an artistic director, leading such a large team, which achievement hadn't she earned through her own effort? Lin Fan's arrangements negated all her hard work, didn't they? Thinking about it now, she was still a little angry. Su Yufei got into the taxi and headed towards Yalanj Xinan store. In the past, she would not have considered being a model. But now, someone had asked her to come. Yet she seemed to have forgotten that Yalanj was also a brand of the Ocean Group. Meanwhile, in a certain office at Yalanj, the phone rang. The person in charge answered the call. Yes, I understand. Then we'll proceed according to your instructions, CEO Lin. Chapter 12. International Supermodel Luna. In the taxi, Su Yufei browsed through Douyin, Chinese TikTok. Her popularity had dropped quite a bit in recent days. Netizens were, after all, flock creatures. They would crowd around any trending topic, but after a few days, they would forget all about it and move on to the next one. This allowed her to finally breathe a little. She clicked on her social media feed and saw she had over 99 plus notifications. Finally, a small smile crept across her face. Ordinary, not as beautiful as my goddess. Yufei, you finally posted. You didn't reply to any of the messages I sent you. Wow, that's a really big suitcase. The first comments were from a few of her school days admirers. Without giving them a second glance, Su Yufei continued scrolling. Whoa, Fei, you're simply a fairy. You've become even more beautiful after just a few days. She replied to Li Sheng's comment with a blushing face emoji. She had to admit, her ex-boyfriend always had a way with words, unlike a certain someone who was a huge blockhead. Scrolling further down, she didn't see Lin Fan's name. Lin Fan hadn't even left her a comment. In the past, he would at least leave 10. Sometimes, if she didn't reply, Lin Fan would send her 88 red envelopes of 520 yuan each to get her attention. But now, where was he? She went through every single comment, but there was no trace of him. There were still plenty of rude comments, but Su Yufei just pretended not to see them. Hello, we've arrived at Yalanj Exinen store. Stepping out of the car, the first thing that struck her was the beautifully decorated shop, although it was fairly quiet inside. The occasional passerby, upon seeing the prices, would gape in surprise. Tens of thousands of yuan for a bag? Who would buy that? You don't understand. Yalanj is a luxury brand. Tens of thousands is considered cheap. Look, someone's coming. She's so beautiful, this girl. Amid the surprised murmurings of the crowd, Su Yufei straightened her back and walked directly into Yalanj. A sales assistant immediately approached. Hello, welcome to Yalanj. Is there anything I can help you with? My name is Su Yufei. I have an appointment with Mr. Liu Hao. Please wait a moment. After guiding her to the conference room, the sales assistant bowed politely to her. Su Yufei had to admit, the service in luxury stores was good. In any other store, she would have been looked at and talked about. After a while, the sales assistant came with Liu Hao. Haha, long time no see, Yufei. Yes, Mr. Liu. I'm very happy to see you again. After shaking hands, Liu Hao gestured for her to sit down. Do you like tea? Liu Hao took out a can of tea leaves. This Longjing is quite good. Su Yufei didn't usually drink tea, but she nodded. I quite like it, especially oolong tea. Oolong is good, but I prefer Longjing. Its green color, fragrant aroma, sweet taste, and beautiful shape. Picking up the tea leaves, he smelled them. Pre-rain is top grade, pre-Qingming is a treasure. This is tea picked before the Qingming festival. Clapping, Su Yufei said, as expected of Mr. Liu, I don't know anything about these things. It's fine not to know, you just need to know how to taste it. After brewing a pot of tea, Su Yufei took a simple sip. The taste was indeed good. But to say how good it was, she couldn't quite tell. She could only say that it was good. She wasn't a tea connoisseur. After a few cups of tea, Liu Hao still hadn't brought up work. Su Yufei couldn't help but feel confused. Mr. Liu, we've had quite a few cups. It's time to talk about work. We can drink tea later. Work well, no rush. Liu Hao's expression was clearly off, as if he was hiding something. It wasn't that Su Yufei was overly sensitive, but they had already had enough tea and pleasantries. She was here to earn money, not to chat. Liu Hao sensed her impatience and, knowing that he couldn't keep it a secret, slapped his thigh and said, I have to say sorry to you, Yufei. Some changes happened too suddenly. I was about to inform you, but it was too late. What do you mean? It means, it might have been a wasted trip. Su Yufei's face changed instantly. Mr. Liu, what happened? I received your email and came straight here. I didn't arrive late, did I? Liu Hao pursed his lips and told her the truth without any concealment. Originally, his company had planned for Su Yufei to be the model for their new product. At least that had been the plan half an hour ago. Who could have guessed that the headquarters would suddenly change their decision? They had just received the news. I'm sorry, Yufei. I recognize your ability, but the company has other arrangements, and we can't go against them. I promise this will never happen again. This time, it really was our oversight. To be honest, while Su Yufei was angry, she didn't show it. Such temporary personnel changes were actually quite common. Some actors could even be replaced after the makeup was already done. The only thing that bothered her was, who was the model replacing her? Lu Hao was also truthful. I don't mind telling you. It's the internationally renowned model Luna. It's her. She's in China? If there was one model in the world that Su Yufei admired the most, it was Luna. Her stunning appearance at the Victoria's Secret fashion show was unforgettable. To get on the Victoria's Secret runway, a model needed to have a perfect body and exceptional looks. They were known as the queens of the fashion world. Many people could spend their entire lives trying to make it onto the Victoria's Secret stage, and Luna had been on it 5 times. Her achievements were something that most models could only dream of. Such a powerful supermodel had actually stolen her job? The thought of her job being taken by her idol was inexplicably infuriating. Let me meet her. Su Yufei believed that she was no less than the supermodel and wanted to try again. Lu Hao could only say that he would try, because Luna had a very tight schedule. Thinking of something, he wanted to say something but stopped himself. I'm sorry, I really can't say anything about this. If you want to know more, you can visit our official website. I have work to do. I need to leave for a bit. Like a mouse running away from a cat, Lu Hao nodded and quickly left. The sales assistant immediately approached her. Ms. Su, if you need anything, feel free to ask me. Okay, her mind was completely hooked on Lu Hao's words. She quickly opened Yalan's official website. The first thing that caught her eye was a full-body picture of Luna. Blonde hair, blue eyes, and confidently captivating. Just like an angel. Where is my photo? Su Yufei panicked, looking up and down on the website. Originally, this was her photo's position, and it had been for several years. Lin Fan had told her before that in the future, Yalanj would only have one female lead, and that was Su Yufei. Now, it hadn't been that long and she was already replaced. No. How is this any different from being cheated on? Chapter 13. Not Living Well, Breakdown. Su Yufei stared at Luna's face, her heart slowly sinking. She knew very well that Yalanj was one of Ocean Group's brands, and she had no questions about being replaced. She deserved punishment for doing wrong. She could accept being fired and blocked. But now that she was at her wit's end, Lin Fan was taking away her last means of survival. This was simply pushing her to the brink. She couldn't hold back her emotions anymore, tears welling up in her eyes. Do I really not have any place in your heart? 10 years of companionship, even strangers would have feelings, wouldn't they? Knowing full well that she had no way to survive, Lin Fan was still throwing stones down the well, finding someone to replace her. And the replacement was her idol. Looking at Yalanj's promotional slogan with both of them in it, Su Yufei's heart ached. What a powerful alliance. This place was supposed to be mine. Lin Fan, how heartless can you be? Are you okay, Miss Su? The sales assistant brought over a tissue. As a girl herself, she could understand what Su Yufei was going through. Being replaced by someone else was a very terrible thing, especially with this promotional video. While others didn't know, the company had very high expectations for this particular product. They had even gone to great lengths to bring in the international supermodel Luna to endorse it. When she first received the news, she was also very surprised. After all, their first choice for a Yalanj model was always Ms. Su Yufei. That was something that CEO Lin had stated solemnly. She figured it was probably the wedding scandal that had caused Ms. Su to lose CEO Lin's trust, she thought. However, other people's affairs were none of her business. After handing a tissue to Su Yufei, she didn't say anything else. She simply stared blankly as Su Yufei cried. She didn't know how long it had been before Su Yufei finally calmed down. She said to the sales assistant, "Sorry, you must be laughing at me." "It's all right, Miss Su. If you need anything, just tell me." Su Yufei smiled bitterly. "Thank you, but it's okay. Seeing that Mr. Liu won't be free for a while, I'll leave first. Please tell Mr. Liu for me." "Okay." Compared to the confident self who had walked into Yalanj, Su Yufei's eyes were now red. Her body had cried out all of its strength. Just then, the phone rang. She numbly opened her phone, finding that it was a call from Li Sheng. She intended to hang up directly, but in the end, she didn't know why, she answered it. "Hello, Fei Fei. I have something to tell you." Li Sheng's voice was soft, as if he had no confidence. "You also know that I haven't been doing well lately. How far have you gotten with considering what I mentioned last time?" Li Sheng was referring to the matter of borrowing 2 million yuan. At the time, he thought that 2 million yuan was a small amount and had not put much effort into it. But recently, many things had happened. Banks and loan sharks were coming to him for repayments, and being unemployed, he didn't have money to pay back. Thinking that Ocean Group was in the midst of a public relations crisis, He had planned to take advantage of its weakness, using internet trolls to crush the other party, thus making profit. He never thought that the friend who he was doing this with would flip on him. This event caused him to realize that without his identity as a football player, he was nothing. Seeing that Su Yufei hadn't made a sound, Li Xing asked, "Are you okay, Fei Fei? You don't seem to be in a good state." "I'm fine," Su Yufei replied flatly. "That's good then. If you're upset about anything, tell me. I'll go to your place right away." "Have you run out of money to spend?" Li Shang remained silent for a moment, then his voice came back. "Fei Fei, don't say it so harshly. I won't lie to you. I have been short of cash lately, but I found a way to make money. My brothers in Myanmar said they have a big deal for me, and I'm just about to go." As he said this, his voice grew quieter. "It's just, I need some travel expenses. Do you think you could lend me some?" Clang, 200,000 yuan had been transferred to his Alipay account. Thank you, Fei Fei. I love you." Li Shang was overjoyed. Although 200,000 yuan wasn't much, having some money was all that mattered. Tonight at the casino, he was going to win back all the money he had lost. Leaving behind the phrase, "I won't bother you anymore, Fei Fei, call me if you need anything, bye." The phone hung up abruptly. Su Yufei was extremely disappointed. All Li Shang could think about was money, 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 and he was not paying attention to her emotions. Did he not know that she was in a lot of pain right now? Recalling the bits and pieces of their time together before the wedding, she completely broke down. Fine then, without Lin Fan, she was not living better. Instead, she couldn't even survive. It was okay to lose face. What was wrong with begging him? Evening, on the Exinen cruise ship. The masquerade ball was a tradition for Ocean Group each year. It could be called a blind date event. The majority of the men and women in Exinen City that were of some importance were gathered here, and as long as you had status and courage, you could win the hearts of the opposite sex. Also, as everyone was required to wear a mask, it added a sense of mystery. At this time, on the deck, Lin Fan, dressed in a white tuxedo, looked elegant. People passing by couldn't help but admire him. "That's CEO Lin. He's so handsome. Go strike up a conversation. If you have courage, you might have a chance. Go now." "Don't. He has a wife." "That Su Yufei is surely going to get dumped." "Oh no, look, someone's coming. No more chances." The person walking towards Lin Fan was a stylish older lady with white hair. The reason she was described this way was because she was the president of Huachuang Group, Lisa, who was also known as the godmother of fashion. In that era, fashion was still a new thing. And Grandma Lisa was the one who paved the way. Her brand, Candy, was popular all over the world and generated hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue. Ocean Group was a newcomer and should learn from and respect her. Lin Fan walked quickly to greet her. "Hello, Ms. Lisa. Welcome to China." "Young man, don't be so polite. Just call me Grandma. We're all Chinese." Lisa spoke with a fluent Chinese accent, sounding nothing like a foreigner. "As you wish, Grandma Lisa." Actually, when he went to the United States, Lin Fan was shocked. How was it that Ms. Lisa's Chinese was so fluent, it didn't sound like she was a foreigner? He later found out that Ms. Lisa was born in China and went to live abroad with her parents when she was young. Through the passage of time, she had not forgotten her identity, she had not forgotten her roots. She was born Chinese, and she would remain Chinese for the rest of her life. Lin Fan greatly admired this quality, and his respect for Lisa grew even more. The two talked about the prospects of business cooperation, the planning for new products, and joint operations. Lisa would frequently offer suggestions that Lin Fan found very beneficial, and he was full of confidence in his group's upcoming seasonal products. As they were chatting, Lin Fan suddenly asked, "I heard that your granddaughter is also on the ship. How come I haven't seen her?" Lisa chuckled. "What's this? Are you that interested in my granddaughter?" She sized Lin Fan up and down, looking like she was picking out a grandson-in-law. Chapter 14. Do you like her? You've misunderstood. The ship is about to depart. I was just worried your granddaughter might miss it and make you worry. Lisa said there was no need to worry. Her granddaughter was used to doing things her own way, and by now she was probably wandering around somewhere. It was Lin Fan she was curious about. "What do you think of my granddaughter?" Lin Fan nodded. "Miss Luna is an international supermodel, proficient in piano and violin. She's very talented and exceptionally outstanding. Do you like her?" Lisa asked bluntly. "I think young people should focus on their careers first. Besides, I'm not very good at the romance stuff." In truth, he had already been hurt once. In a short space of time, it would be difficult for him to fall in love with another girl. He knew that Ms. Lisa wanted to match him with Luna. Giving empty promises would be harmful and without benefit to both sides. Therefore, Lin Fan expressed his attitude tactfully. Lisa happily accepted Lin Fan's answer. We now advocate free love, not the arranged marriages of the old days, or following what parents say. Luna is naturally unconstrained and quiet, but she is a kind girl. If you get the chance to get to know her, I believe you will like her too. Perhaps, Lin Fan didn't have much hope. Meanwhile, in a certain restaurant on the ship, a girl with flowing blonde hair and a Hello Kitty mask was sitting at the bar reading a book. Unlike the others who were there to get drunk, Luna hadn't ordered alcohol. Instead, she ordered a coconut juice. Her favorite drink was coconut juice. Those alcoholic drinks were bitter and not very tasty. This book is actually quite good. Is this how people spoke in ancient times? Luna nodded, having learned something new. Perhaps it was because she was attracting attention with her unconventional behavior, but soon a man wearing a wolf mask came to strike up a conversation. You like to read too. It seems we have a common interest. Raising the historical book, Yongzheng Dynasty, to cover her face, Luna didn't seem to want to talk. To that end, she moved away by a few dozen centimeters. The man chuckled. He had never met a girl like this before. In his social circles, everyone was usually uninhibited and very open. He found this girl quite interesting. Hello, my name is Eric. I've become a U.S. citizen. I'm now a proud resident of the United States. It's nice to meet you. He stretched out his hand. To his surprise, Luna simply said, "Oh," and quietly added, "My grandmother doesn't allow me to talk to foreigners. Goodbye." Eric's proud U.S. citizenship was so easily ignored. He wanted to say something more. But Luna had already slipped away. The failed attempt to chat up the girl had left him slightly annoyed. Usually, women would throw themselves at him. Luna went to a quiet place before putting down the book and mask that had been covering her face, taking a deep breath. Thank goodness she ran fast. Handling men was her weak point. If anyone were to pass by, they would surely be shocked. No one would have guessed that Luna, who commanded the Victoria's Secret fashion show and faced the camera with ease and confidence, was actually a little shy. It wasn't that she was afraid to communicate with people, but she just didn't know how to speak well. She had been called a steel-straight girl by her best friends many times. Many people thought she was self-willed and would say whatever she wanted, given how famous she was. But what they didn't know was that it was simply because her brain couldn't process things well. The less she spoke, the better. It was better to be cool and pose. That was also why she chose to be a model. Oh! Not paying attention, she bumped into someone, almost falling into his arms. When she looked up, she met Lin Fan's cold eyes. She didn't dare move. This person looked very fierce. Would he throw her into the sea to feed the sharks? How scary. He was very handsome, but even if he was handsome, he would still throw her into the sea. She mustn't speak. It's best to act cool. Lin Fan looked at her blonde hair and Hello Kitty mask and recalled what Lisa had said. My granddaughter likes Hello Kitty and has blonde hair. You can have her as your wife once you recognize her. Ms. Lisa, stop joking around. I might just take that seriously. Now, seeing Luna, he thought it was better not to reveal his identity. The two of them just stood there, staring at each other in the hallway. Eventually, it was Lin Fan who spoke. Are you hurt? The hallway is quite dark. You need to be careful when you walk around with that mask on. I'm fine. How are your pectoral muscles? The moment she spoke, Luna was a little regretful. Why was she asking him about his pectoral muscles? Had her brain gone haywire? But on the surface, she remained confident, with no tremor in her voice. To others, she looked like a very charming girl. Lin Fan's expression didn't change as he calmly said, I work out regularly. I go to the gym often. Thanks for your concern. So polite and so unconventional. Luna was a little surprised. When she had said something wrong in the past, people would always have a strange look on their faces, making her feel uncomfortable. This person was different. He was expressionless, making her feel very at ease. The two nodded at each other and went their separate ways. Watching Lin Fan walk away, the corners of Luna's mouth under her mask curved into a slight smile. She seemed quite happy. The rest of the time, she continued to wander around, looking for fun. When she passed by the cruise ship's gate, she poked her head out to take a look. Dock workers were busy, and the massive anchor used to secure the ship was slowly being raised. It looked like the ship was about to set sail. The 2-day, 1-night trip was about to begin. Oh no, I'm a little hungry. Let's go find something to eat. Just as she walked away, a girl wearing a mask pulled a suitcase and quickly ran over. This was the late Su Yufei. It was all Li Sheng's fault. He had clearly said that the ship was leaving at 8 p.m., so she had deliberately arrived an hour early, but she had still almost missed it. The ship leaves at 7 p.m., and you said it was at 8 p.m. Where did you get that news from? Ha, finally made it. I'm so tired. Su Yufei reached the staircase. Just as she was about to enter, a staff member stopped her. I'm sorry, ma'am. Please show your invitation letter. I don't have an invitation letter. Let me in now. I'm sorry, ma'am, but you cannot board the ship without an invitation letter. This is the company's rule. Please cooperate. Seeing that the anchor had been completely raised, Su Yufei became anxious. She took off her mask and shouted loudly, "Look at who I am. I'm your boss's wife. Are you still not going to let me in?" You are this? The staff member was a little lost. Just then, someone came out of the cabin. She said, "Let her in. It wouldn't be good to leave her behind." Okay, Miss Su, I'll help you with your luggage. As the ship began to rock, the Exinen set off on its journey. This journey would last for 2 days and 1 night. Starting from Exinen Port, stopping at Yunbu City, and then returning. A journey of over 1,000 kilometers was about to begin. Chapter 15. Enemies meet, with a special kind of rage. Following the mysterious woman who had helped her, Su Yufei arrived at her room. Opening the door, she saw luggage inside. It didn't seem like an empty room. She didn't have an invitation letter, so it was reasonable that she wasn't allowed on the ship, and that no room was prepared for her. But she wasn't happy about having to share a room with someone else. I want a single room. There's no way I'm going to share with someone else. I have a phobia of uncleanliness. Standing at the doorway, Su Yufei's face was disgusted, and she refused to enter. She didn't believe that this massive cruise ship couldn't spare a single room. Why couldn't those grown men sleep together instead? Girls were always very tidy. If you don't want to stay, we can only ask you to leave. The mysterious woman said bluntly. Su Yufei suddenly panicked. If she left the ship, she wouldn't see Lin Fan. Besides, the outside was a vast ocean. Was she supposed to swim back? She didn't know how to swim. Reluctantly, she walked into the single room, and when she saw that there was only one bed, Su Yufei turned to the side and asked, "Are we supposed to sleep together?" Looking at the mysterious woman's clothes, she immediately judged that her status was not very high. A person without a single luxury brand on her body. She must have come from some rural area. If she was healthy, that would be okay. But what if she had some contagious disease? What would she do if she caught it? She was very afraid of those things. After thinking for a while, Su Yufei took out a precious gold necklace from her bag. Here, take this. You can sleep on the floor for the next few days. Don't worry, it's not fake. It's 100 grams. You can keep it for yourself, or exchange it for money. I don't care. You probably haven't seen something like this in your life. You should cherish it. Her tone and expression were full of arrogance. Not waiting for the other person to reply, Su Yufei threw her belongings onto the bed and tossed the other person's clothes onto the floor. This action completely angered the other person. She had been kind enough to let her on the ship, but she was met with such discrimination. She had always had a grudge against Su Yufei anyway. She couldn't hold back any longer. She pointed at Su Yufei and shouted furiously, "Su Yufei, get out of here." "Oh, you know me? Your voice sounds familiar. Were you one of my employees before?" The other person slowly took off her mask. Su Yufei's face changed from indifference to surprise, and then slowly to gritted teeth. "It's you, Yao Xiaoming. So what if it's me, you ungrateful thing?" The person who had helped Su Yufei was actually the new artistic director of Ocean Group, Yao Xiaoming. Yes, she had received an invitation, and she had boarded the ship as well. Just now, passing by the gate, she saw Su Yufei, and she had kindly invited her on board. But who would have known that Su Yufei would humiliate her in this way? And she even tried to disgust her with that cheap gold necklace. She angrily grabbed the necklace, quickly went to the window, opened it, and threw the gold necklace outside. Su Yufei's face changed drastically. "Are you crazy? That necklace was a custom-made piece, worth over $10,000. You just threw tens of thousands of dollars into the sea." Yao Xiaoming took a deep breath, watched the gold necklace sink into the sea, and replied, "I wanted to. It's none of your business. As for you, get out of my room." When enemies meet, they are especially enraged. Su Yufei was determined to butt heads. "I'm not leaving. If anyone's leaving, it's you. You took my things. This room is mine. Have some shame, Su Yufei. If I dare to come here, I no longer care about shame. This room is mine." Su Yufei simply lay down on the bed and ignored Yao Xiaoming, no matter how much she urged her to get up. Yao Xiaoming said good a few times. So this is how she wanted to play. She was not going to be bothered with shame either. She also lay down next to Su Yufei, pulling at the covers. Her logic was, if I can't feel good, you're not getting any peace either. You shameless. Su Yufei truly had a phobia of uncleanliness. After being messed with by Yao Xiaoming, goosebumps rose all over her body. She felt very uncomfortable. But she was very strong and determined and would never give up easily. She forced herself to endure her discomfort and pretended to sleep. So good at pretending to endure. It seems that I have to add some fuel to the fire. Yao Xiaoming thought. She pretended to take out her phone and exclaimed, "Oh, dear. CEO Lin is looking for me. I wonder what it is about? Let me see." Su Yufei actually reacted. Her eyes suddenly opened. She was itching to turn over and peek. She knew that Yao Xiaoming was doing this on purpose. "Tisi." She snorted in disdain. Just then, Yao Xiaoming suddenly sat up in bed, her voice very excited. "What? CEO Lin wants me to go to his room in the middle of the night? Is that okay? We would be alone, with nothing else around. Who knows what might happen?" Su Yufei quietly replied, "Keep spinning the yarn. If I believe you, then I am the biggest fool on earth." Yao Xiaoming was still happy as she replied to a text message. The sound of the typing and Yao Xiaoming's giggling kept disturbing Su Yufei's mind. Unable to bear the disturbance, she chose to cover her ears. But it didn't stop. Yao Xiaoming only began to intensify, her words becoming even more explicit. "CEO Lin, your skills last night were amazing. I have no chance of beating you. We fought until dawn, and I couldn't even get out of bed the next day. Unlike some people, alone in her room, lonely and unbearable, she can only comfort herself." Su Yufei's heart ached, and she found it hard to breathe. She knew that what Yao Xiaoming said was likely true. That night, she had waited for Lin Fan's reply. She had waited all night long. But what she ultimately got in return was a block and betrayal. So while she was feeling anxious, Lin Fan was actually having fun with this woman. She was the only one who was secretly feeling sad. Thinking of this, a sniffle came from inside the room. Yao Xiaoming looked over and found that the sound was from Su Yufei. The words of mockery that she was about to say came to a halt. She casually asked, "Crying? Your resilience is too weak, and I haven't even gotten to the good part yet?" Hearing her cry, Yao Xiaoming still softened. It was fine to bicker a bit, but making her cry was not her intention. "Hey, keep it down, or people will think I'm doing something to you." She nudged Su Yufei's back, wanting her to quiet down. Unexpectedly, Su Yufei just burst into tears. It had nearly scared Yao Xiaoming to death. She could never stand to see a girl cry. Her roommates in the past would always cry at the slightest thing. As a person with a relatively strong mentality, she just could not understand. Crying when her takeout got stolen, crying when her clothes didn't dry, crying when she was hungry. Did they need to be so sentimental? Su Yufei was the same. She had said that she didn't believe what she had said, but a few seconds later, she had started to cry. What a waste of that queen-like face. "Are you really crying? I'm not responsible for this." Like a scumbag, Yao Xiaoming got out of bed and started playing with her phone. Just then, the phone rang. When she saw the avatar of the person calling, she almost lost her composure. What she had said just now was indeed fabricated, but now CEO Lin was really calling. "Hello, how are you, CEO Lin?" "Yes, I'm in the room. Is there something that you need?" Chapter 16. Is love a handout? This was the first time he had ever called her on his own initiative. Yao Xiaoming's face was full of smiles as she happily chatted with Lin Fan. When she was excited, she would giggle happily, and when Su Yufei heard this, she once again turned her head. She wondered, was that really Lin Fan calling? "All right, CEO Lin, I'll come to your room tonight. You must wait for me." Unlike during their argument, Yao Xiaoming was being very well-behaved and cute, like a harmless little bunny. Su Yufei got up and leaned closer. She wanted to listen to their conversation, but right when she moved closer, the call suddenly disconnected and she didn't hear a thing. Unable to contain her curiosity, she asked Yao Xiaoming, "What did Lin Fan say? Did he mention my name?" "Why are you squinting? What are you so smug about?" "Nothing. I'm just happy. After all, this is the first time that CEO Lin has called me." As she spoke, Yao Xiaoming did not forget to display their chat history. It was like chatting with Lin Fan was a very fortunate thing. And indeed it was. Seeing Su Yufei's envious eyes and her clenched fists, she knew that she had won too much. As for Lin Fan looking for her to work overtime, that was not as important. Su Yufei was very concerned about the contents of the call. She lowered her voice and asked, "Okay, I was wrong today. I shouldn't have looked down on you. I apologize to you. I hope you can forgive me." "Okay, that's more like it. I'll tell you." Yao Xiaoming gave a simplified account of the call. The contents were unexceptional. Actually, there were some minor problems with the recent new product development. He wanted Yao Xiaoming to go to his office to work overtime, and also to introduce her to some of the working partners from Huachuang Group. But even with such ordinary content, one that could even be said to be disliked by the average worker, Yao Xiaoming was very happy. There was an indescribable excitement in her voice. Su Yufei didn't understand. She asked her, "What's so exciting about that? Don't you think it's boring that you have to work overtime when you're out on a trip? If it were me, I wouldn't go. Working more hours without getting any more money." The two had opposing views, and Yao Xiaoming said, "I also think that working overtime is tiring, but the place has someone who makes me not bored." Su Yufei's body shook. She looked at Yao Xiaoming, who was smiling foolishly at the chat logs. Then she looked at herself. Not mentioning recent chat logs, all of their past chat logs with Lin Fan were all one-sided efforts on his part. Sometimes, after he sent a bunch of messages, she wouldn't even bother to send back a single reply. The worst was that Lin Fan would send her a good morning or good night message every day, and after she scrolled through their chat history, she found that she hadn't sent a single message back. Is this really me? She couldn't believe how extreme she was. No wonder Yao Xiaoming said she wasn't his only one. It seemed that it was all her fault. Laying down again, she began to reply to every message that Lin Fan had sent. "Yufei, I've discovered a really great restaurant. Shall we go this afternoon?" "Really? Okay, I'll go with you." "Yufei, I've prepared a surprise for you, Tada. It's the merchandise for your favorite celebrity. Do you like it?" "Wow, you're so great. I love you. I love you." Even though a red dot would appear for all of the messages she had sent, she did not stop, and she replied to all of the messages that she hadn't replied to before, even if Lin Fan couldn't see them. Just then, Yao Xiaoming asked her, "Aren't you angry?" "Lin Fan asked me, but not you." She was slowly replying to the messages and said, "What's the point of being angry? Your legs are attached to your own body. I can't stop you anyway." "Oh." Yao Xiaoming teased her. "Aren't you afraid that I'll steal your husband?" "I'm telling you, Lin Fan has helped me a lot. I want to be in a relationship with him." Su Yufei stopped replying and turned to look at Yao Xiaoming. Then she drew her conclusion. "Lin Fan won't like you. You're not a worm in his stomach, so how do you know that he doesn't like people like me?" She was a doctoral student from a famous university. Her figure and appearance were not inferior to Su Yufei's, and she was regarded as a beauty by other people. If she was on Douyin, she would totally be a beauty academic. What was she inferior to? Su Yufei didn't say her reasons. She simply replied, "It's just my gut feeling. Lin Fan probably likes people like me. I've loved him for 10 years. I know him better than you." Hearing this, Yao Xiaoming wanted to laugh. "Loving him for 10 years, she said. Who was the one that cheated? Who was the one who wasted CEO Lin's affections and was regretting it now? Did she never consider the reasons why she was dumped? I know that I did wrong. I shouldn't have been entangled with my ex-boyfriend. I shouldn't have gone to a hotel before the wedding. It seems that you still haven't seen the full picture." Yao Xiaoming knew very well that Lin Fan's change of heart wasn't just because Su Yufei had cheated. That was only the final step that detonated the bomb. The real reason was Su Yufei's superior attitude. She thought that love was a handout. As long as she gave a little bit of love to Lin Fan, he would obediently be devoted to her. However, she couldn't see clearly. All of the money, power, and ability to love that she possessed were all given to her by Lin Fan. Without Lin Fan, Su Yufei would just be that country girl that she mentioned, just an ordinary girl who could never achieve the achievements that she had today. And even now, she still hasn't seen clearly, foolishly wishing that she could make Lin Fan turn back through softening her stance and apologizing. Isn't this also a kind of superior, condescending attitude? Perhaps, after hearing what Yao Xiaoming said, Su Yufei simply nodded, and she didn't take the words to heart. She knew that their 10 years of companionship was more significant than what Yao Xiaoming said. Lin Fan was definitely waiting for her to apologize. As long as she apologized, he would come back to her side. "Then I can only wish you good luck. Our two ideologies are just too different. It seems we cannot be friends after all." Yao Xiaoming waved her hand. After saying what she wanted to say, she began to pack her things. After putting them all into the luggage, she pulled it and wanted to leave. Su Yufei asked her with some concern, "If you leave this room, where else are you going to stay?" "Who knows? Maybe the staff dormitory, or maybe the hard deck." Yao Xiaoming walked out the door and turned to smile and said, I have the trust of CEO Lin, so I won't be lacking a place to stay. The implied meaning was that she wasn't like Su Yufei. If she lost Lin Fan's trust, she wouldn't even have a decent room. Of course, a place to stay had a double meaning. A place to stay? Su Yufei fell into silence as she picked up the brochures that were on the table. It had all of the activity arrangements for the 3 days and 2 nights. Among those was the most exciting event, the masquerade ball. Young men and women would put on masks, from meeting, to getting to know each other, to falling in love. Only after going through these 3 stages would the two of them take off their masks, witness their true selves, and welcome the most romantic waltz. She knew very well that this was probably her last chance. Chapter 17. I want to help you, CEO Lin. In an office aboard the Exinen, it was already 10 p.m. While others were indulging in the nightlife, the atmosphere in this room was unusually serious. Everyone was carefully listening to the person at the head of the table, not daring to make any other noise. Positioning is the most important part of market research. A great product needs to be accurately positioned in order to sell. Our target market is middle-class women. Everyone must remember that. After finding our positioning, we need to confirm our promotional channels. Marketing department, talk about your ideas. The microphone was passed to the head of the marketing department, who cleared his throat and began to present his plan. We are now in the internet age. Livestream e-commerce is a new trend. After conducting research, we found that the online market is very large. CEO Lin, we've decided. The meeting lasted a full 3 hours. Lin Fan would occasionally offer a few suggestions. It wasn't until 1 in the morning that everyone began to leave. Inside the office, only Lin Fan and Yao Xiaoming were left. Yao Xiaoming thought, leaving me alone. CEO Lin must have an important job to give me. Just then, Lin Fan spoke. He asked Yao Xiaoming to sit down. There were some things he wanted to share with her. About that topic. That topic, which topic was that? Anyway, Yao Xiaoming looked very well behaved. She moved a chair over and sat down, staring at Lin Fan with her chin in her hand. Lin Fan touched his face and asked her, What are you doing? Is there something on my face? Otherwise, why would she stare at his face? No, of course not. I just think that, CEO Lin. You are so responsible, working until the late hours of the night every day before taking a rest. I'm used to it. I don't have many hobbies. The only thing that can help me pass the time is work. Lin Fan crossed his fingers and leaned on the table. There was something he didn't say. He actually used to enjoy playing basketball. But Su Yufei said that all he ever did was play basketball and never spent time with her. So, he gave up basketball. After that, he didn't develop any other hobbies, and he cycled between work and trying to accommodate Su Yufei's emotions. What do you like to do usually? He straightened up and asked casually. Yao Xiaoming was stunned for a moment. After thinking about it, she said, What I like. You probably won't like, CEO Lin. You can say it. I want to know you a little more. Okay then, I'll say it. Actually, I like to watch movies, of course, normal movies, like horror movies or something like that. The scarier the better. Those movies from Southeast Asia are the most exciting. That's a good hobby. I'll try it when I have time. Huh. Yao Xiaoming was a little surprised. CEO Lin seemed to agree, which was beyond her expectations. Sometimes when she shared her interests with her friends, they would reply, Wow, you seem so well behaved, but you actually dare to watch horror movies, you're so brave. Or some timid guys who she had been on blind dates with would run away after hearing that. She still didn't know the reason. Was liking horror movies strange? It didn't seem like it. And she also liked to watch fantasy romance and urban romance dramas, just like other girls. CEO Lin, we should watch one together when we have time. How about it? She giggled and invited him. Okay. Lin Fan nodded. She was already happy to receive Lin Fan's approval. Now that he had invited her as well, Yao Xiaoming was even happier. Yao Xiaoming's legs were fidgeting as she moved closer to Lin Fan and said with a smile, CEO Lin, let me tell you a scary story first. See if I can scare you? Okay. As he listened to Yao Xiaoming tell her story, Lin Fan remembered something. In his past life, he had jumped off a building. As he was dying, he had heard Yao Xiaoming's voice. Damn you, Su Yufei. It's all your fault. It's all your fault that CEO Lin committed suicide. I will make you pay for this with your life. She was kneeling on the ground, screaming. This was very different from her well-behaved image. This was the first time that Lin Fan had noticed this girl. Before, she had been silent and unknown. He only knew that her mother had died in a car accident, and she was normally a girl who didn't talk much. They didn't have much contact with each other on a daily basis. Yet, Yao Xiaoming was crying her heart out. He tried his best to open his eyes and engrave the girl's face into his memory. If there was a next life, CEO Lin, are you listening? I think you're a little absent-minded. Yao Xiaoming reached out and waved in front of his eyes. I'm sorry, the story you were telling, about how people turned into hamburgers and were eaten, was a little scary for me. These are my collection of horror stories. I scared you, didn't I? It had to be said, Yao Xiaoming's personality had become much more cheerful in this life. That was good. After that, the two discussed a lot of the company's business. That topic that Lin Fan had wanted to share was about the group's public relations crisis. On the wedding day, Father Lin had clearly stated that no video recording was allowed. Afterwards, their public relations department had also issued a statement banning the dissemination of the wedding video. But the video was like a flood, sweeping through the entire internet. Almost everyone knew that Su Yufei had gone to a bar with other men on the eve of her wedding. He didn't believe that there was no foul play in this. You suspect someone is buying trending searches? Yao Xiaoming pouted. It was also the first time she was hearing of this kind of thing. But soon a question arose. We have so many competitors. Which company is causing trouble? Have you found out who it is, CEO Lin? Lin Fan shook his head. It's unclear for now, but when the Exine and docks, the truth will come out. Could it be? Yao Xiaoming thought of something. Lin Fan nodded. That guy must be on the ship, mocking Ocean Group. Commercial competition was both fierce and cruel. There were countless competitors who wanted Ocean Group to go bankrupt. Just this public relations crisis alone had caused their group to lose a lot of money. Their stock price had taken a dip. Converting that into cash, it was billions. Not to mention all of the related repercussions that had followed. He would not swallow such huge losses easily. He would definitely make that company pay for their actions. Is there anything I can do? I also want to help Ocean Group and help you, CEO Lin. Yao Xiaoming said. Lin Fan looked at her sincere expression and agreed. Okay, there are some things I want you to do, but I'll state it beforehand, this is outside of work, and there will be no extra overtime pay. It's okay, as long as it helps CEO Lin. Okay then, listen closely. I want you to keep an eye on Su Yufei, and don't let her appear in front of me. It was like she had heard an unbelievable order. Yao Xiaoming didn't react for a moment. She asked again, are you serious? She was surprised that CEO Lin knew that Su Yufei was on the ship. In the end, even after she had left the office, she was still confused. Lin Fan had only left behind the phrase, yes, I'm serious. I don't need to tell you the reasons why, do I? And let her go back. Chapter 18. The Terror of a Public Relations Bomb. Late at night, sleepless, Su Yufei tossed and turned. The moonlight was like gauze, shining down on her body. She still couldn't fall asleep. Yao Xiaoming's words from the afternoon kept lingering in her mind. You are always superior. That is why you cannot obtain CEO Lin's forgiveness. Don't believe me? Just try it and see. She got up and looked into the mirror by the moonlight. After not sleeping for several days, her complexion was more than a little bad. It was almost impossible to conceal her fatigue with face masks and makeup. She seemed to have aged a few years. At this time, her phone rang again. She didn't need to look at the screen to know who was calling. It was Li Shang. In the past, she would have answered. Now, Su Yufei just sighed and hung up. When she lay down again, several messages popped up, and the screen kept lighting up. Su Yufei impatiently cursed. What time is it? Don't you know to contact me in the morning? I need my beauty sleep. Grabbing her phone, she wanted to use her blocking tactic. But, to her surprise, the content of the messages that Li Shang had sent caught her attention. It was like her dead heart had come back to life. Fei, I have good news for you. Guess what it is? That's right, you guessed it right. I'm rich now. I have a project worth billions, and I want you to join me in this venture. If we can do this well, we won't have to worry about the rest of our lives. I'm serious this time. I swear to heaven, I'm telling the truth. From the text, it could be seen that Li Shang was very excited. Su Yufei was skeptical, but with money, she could pay off her debts. With money, she could restore her lavish lifestyle. With money, she wouldn't have to humiliate herself and beg Lin Fan. She typed back, really? Tell me what happened. Oh yeah, I was lucky, that day when I borrowed money from you. I happened to meet a big boss. He told me that their company was the archenemy of Ocean Group. Hearing this, the fire in Su Yufei's heart was extinguished. She replied, are we going to have to steal top-secret data again? Forget it. I'm no longer working for Ocean Group. There's no way that I'll be able to get my hands on any top-secret files. There was a "oh dear" sound on the other side, and they hurriedly replied, saying that it wasn't that. Stealing top-secret data was just child's play. The thing they wanted her to do wasn't as simple as that. Li Sheng asked her, "Do you know what a public relations bomb is?" A public relations bomb is far more powerful than a real bomb. Su Yufei, as someone who had been a target of online bullying, knew the magnitude of the impact that public opinion could have online. Not to mention an ordinary person. Even a behemoth like Ocean Group could not withstand the impact of public opinion. What could the two of them do to launch a public relations bomb against Ocean Group? Fei, you are the bomb. Huh? What are you talking about, Li Sheng? I finally escaped that fire pit, and now you want me to throw myself back into the flames? Su Yufei was very angry and sent a long voice message. She didn't want to try online bullying again. She could never accept Li Sheng's current plan. For a mere few billion, she would be slandered by the entire internet. This was not a worthwhile trade. Li Sheng sent a helpless facepalm and crying emoji. He complained that Su Yufei wouldn't listen to him completely. Some things weren't the way she thought they were. So, he asked Su Yufei to listen to him carefully. I guarantee you'll agree with me after you hear this. Then hurry up and tell me, what are you waiting for? Hurry up. Li Sheng first gave an example. There were many trending cases online, for example, the case a while back, where a mother reported her child being molested. At the time, netizens were very emotional, and it was as if they wanted to rush into their screens and cut up the guy with a knife. But soon after, the truth came out. It turned out that the guy hadn't actually molested her child at all. She was the one who was making false accusations. That news can still be found online. If you don't believe me, go and search it up. What are you trying to say? Su Yufei couldn't help but ask. It was too much of a coincidence that she was one of those emotional netizens at the time. Li Sheng re-emphasized the key words, the twist. If we can reverse the wedding scandal, then wouldn't that be perfect? At that time, Su Yufei would no longer be the perpetrator, but the victim. And the original Ocean Group, including Lin Fan, would become the real perpetrators. The more excited he became, the louder Li Sheng shouted, "We will turn the whole thing upside down." That boss promised me, if we are able to severely harm Ocean Group, he will give us 1% of his company's shares, worth billions. Compared to Li Sheng, Su Yufei was slightly tempted, but she knew that things were not as simple as that. The video had already spread everywhere. It was impossible to reverse it. Besides, she was so tired, she didn't want to think of any strategies. Ideal, but reality is very cruel. She thought. She had never expected that Li Sheng would say he had a way, and it would definitely be effective. He just wanted to ask Su Yufei if she dared to take a chance. If they succeeded, then she wouldn't have to worry for the rest of her life. But if they failed, then she would have to live under Lin Fan's shadow. You can speak first, I'll think about it. Su Yufei was very calm now. Afterwards, Li Sheng crafted a perfect lie. The planning was clever and the logic was precise. Su Yufei was truly shocked. She didn't know how Li Sheng had thought of this plan. It seemed like it really could succeed. The core of the plan was herself, and what she had to do was get pregnant. Having a child would increase her chances of success. It didn't matter whose child it was. As long as there was a child, she would naturally be able to garner the support of the public. Li Sheng's plan didn't stop there. Su Yufei didn't need to worry about what would happen after the pregnancy. All of those things could be left to Li Sheng. He would completely reverse public opinion. Of course, he also sent a message. You can get pregnant with whoever's child you want. Of course, it would be best if it was with my child. The child will be the handle that you can use against him. Su Yufei was a little tempted. She expressed her last question. Will the netizens believe it? What if they find out it's fake? Wouldn't I be bullied online again? I definitely won't be able to stand it. Don't worry, most netizens don't have the ability to distinguish between right and wrong. They're not wrong to express their emotions. It's wrong to be misled by bad people, and I am that bad person, ha ha ha. At this point, Su Yufei was almost about to agree. But the smiling face of Lin Fan suddenly jumped into her mind, and she thought about everything that she had done to him. She picked up the Masquerade Ball's brochure and Li Sheng's chat logs and put them on either side of the bed. With her conflicted emotions, she couldn't make a decision. Having it all would be impossible. In the end, she picked up her phone and typed, Li Sheng, let me consider it for a few days. I will reply to you. After sending the message, she seemed to have lost all strength in her body. Chapter 19. The Moment We Meet. Miss Phoenix, the Masquerade Ball does not allow any communication devices. Please put your cell phone, headphones, and other electronic devices on the tray. Yufei had only just stepped into the event venue when a poker face immediately came over holding a tray. After putting her communication devices on the tray, she received a built-in small microphone. The poker face said that the microphone could change the speaker's voice. The purpose was to prevent cheating. This also meant that the masquerade ball was all about mystery. You wouldn't know the background of the person you were talking to. You wouldn't know whether they were beautiful or not. Whether or not you wanted to develop the relationship further was entirely based on how you felt. Thank you for your cooperation, and I hope you meet the one for you. The poker face stepped aside, giving her way. Enjoy yourself? From behind, more guests kept arriving. After putting on her microphone, Yufei joined the crowd. The venue was very big. There was a games area, bar, and even a KTV room. Stepping inside, it was like stepping into a highly atmospheric party hall. In order to add a little mystery, the lighting was adjusted to be relatively soft and dim. Sometimes, if you didn't observe closely, you wouldn't know the pattern on someone else's mask. Yufei was wearing a low-cut dress with lace lingerie. She attracted a lot of attention. The exclamations never stopped, and those men's eyes were always gazing up and down her body. It wasn't for any other reason, but that Yufei's figure was just too good. Her tiny waist and surprisingly high bust formed such a strong contrast that it caused people to be unable to take their eyes off of her, especially her shapely buttocks that, with the slightest movement, could completely shatter the little bit of elegance that they had left. They all thought, if they could just grab them hard, how awesome would that be? Yufei was very disgusted by this gaze that looked at her as if she were prey, so she quickened her pace and came to the bar. The bartender at the bar was still a poker face. He put down the glass he was wiping and made an extremely gentlemanly move. "Madam, I am pleased to be of service. What would you like to drink?" "Please give me a Bloody Mary, huh? Why is my voice?" The bartender used the same AI voice to reply, "Madam, there's a button on the microphone. Press it, and you can switch to a female voice." Yufei, who wasn't very good with electronics, tried for a long time before she could switch to the female voice. Although her voice sounded like it was created by AI, it was at least better than the male voice. After getting used to it, she ordered her favorite drink, a Bloody Mary. There was also a hint of cheating. Those who knew her, especially Lin Fan, all knew that her favorite drink was a Bloody Mary. The Bloody Mary was representative of her identity. She believed that when Lin Fan saw it, he would surely come over. While she was waiting, Yufei flipped through the masquerade ball's guide. The first day was the meeting phase. Today, everyone could make contact freely, just like when couples first met. You could talk and connect with anyone, just no sex? Of course, you weren't allowed to reveal your identity. Staff members with a poker face would give warnings to anyone who broke the rules. If the warnings were ignored multiple times, then you would be kicked out. At the very end, there was also a sentence. People always say that the meeting of this life is the fate of 3,000 years. Cherish each other. Cherish everyone you meet. Don't wait until it's lost before being sad. Yufei was thoughtful. Just then, a server pushed a Bloody Mary in front of her. She put away the guide and replied with a thank you. Then she pushed the drink away slightly. The angle was perfect for other people to be able to see the drink, and for them to also be able to see her. This was her own little plan. She wanted Lin Fan to take the initiative to approach her, instead of her wandering around aimlessly. When she first came in, she noticed that all of the guests' clothing was similar. The men were mostly in formal wear such as suits or tuxedos. A minority were in casual wear. Compared to the men, there were more options for women. Formal dresses, suits, and even wedding dresses were all common. The main goal was to be diverse and show off one's own personality. Today, there were around 300 people who had come, and with the added effect of masks and microphones, it wouldn't be easy to find Lin Fan. It was better to just wait around. Suddenly, someone sat down in a seat close to hers. Yufei was overjoyed and looked over at the person. When she saw that the person was only 1.7 meters tall, her expression instantly turned cold. That person had no idea what Yufei was feeling at this moment. He first ordered a chihuahua, and then raised his glass to Yufei as a gesture. Yufei didn't want to pay him any mind, but she didn't want to seem rude either. So she also raised her glass. Afterwards, some things happened that left her extremely speechless. She could never have imagined that this man with the wolf mask would drink the chihuahua in one gulp. Cocktails were not beer. How could you drink them like that? And even though the chihuahua looked like orange juice, it was actually very alcoholic. The reason why he gulped it all down was very clear. Yufei secretly muttered, "How low." Taking advantage of his drunkenness, the man in the wolf mask said, "Miss Phoenix, I would like to get to know you. I wonder if you could let me introduce myself?" Su Yufei shook her glass but didn't reply. He was stunned for a few seconds. He was about to leave, but then he looked at Su Yufei's alluring body under her clothes. "Let me introduce myself first. My name is Eric. Mr. Wolf, please don't reveal your identity." Before his words were over, he was interrupted by a poker face who wouldn't let him continue. At first, he was very arrogant, pointing at the poker face and saying, "I'm different from them. After joining the U.S. citizenship, I'm not just an ordinary person anymore. Sir, I am warning you for the first time. If you violate the rules again, I will have to ask you to leave." Eric got angry and slammed his hand on the table. "How much do you make a month? How dare you talk to me like that? Do you know who I am?" "I don't, but CEO Lin told us. He is in charge here at Exinen." Several poker faces crowded around him and asked him to get up. Fine, Lin Fan, right? You guys better remember me." As he backed away, he pointed at everyone as if he was trying to memorize all of their faces. However, everyone was supported by Lin Fan, so how could they be afraid of this nobody called Eric? "Madam, please forgive us. The inability to disclose identities is the rule, and we can't violate it." The poker face apologized to her. Su Yufei said that it was okay, and continued to sip her drink. Actually, she had heard the name Eric before. Lin Fan had told her. Eric, real name Lu Meng. He was the heir to a foreign trade company. He was unruly by nature and caused a lot of trouble, even going to prison a few times. She didn't expect that after a few years, he would have obtained U.S. citizenship. Although she wasn't impressed, she put her glass down, listened to the music, and continued to wait for Lin Fan's arrival. After that, there were a few more people who had come. If it wasn't Lin Fan, then they were all rotten apples. None of them caught her attention. But just as she was about to give up and take the initiative, someone sat next to her, and Su Yufei actually took the initiative to start a conversation. Chapter 20. I'm wrong. Can't you forgive me? Are you an actor, by any chance? The other person was confused and asked her, "Why do you say that?" The lighting was dim. Su Yufei could only see that the other person's mask was of a cat, but she couldn't see what kind of cat it was. On the contrary, she could see what the person was wearing, see their mouth, and hear their voice. Let's not talk about their clothing. The person was wearing a pure white suit, which made them look fit and slender. They were probably around 1.8 meters. They weren't as tall as Lin Fan, but pretty close. And that mouth, thin like cicada wings, was glossy. It made her want to kiss him. All of the signs indicated that the other person had a very good figure and excellent looks. The career that needed the most looks in the entertainment industry was an actor. She felt that the person in front of her was definitely some big star, maybe even one of her favorite celebrities. To put it simply, it was her intuition. I think you are. Even if you aren't an actor, you must be in a profession that requires you to maintain your body and appearance at all times. After listening to her words, Mr. Cat smiled calmly. You guessed right. It's just as you said. Su Yufei felt happy for the first time. I knew it. I'm the best at looking at people. I can tell who's handsome and who's ugly just by looking at their temperament. Temperament cannot be faked. It needs to be bought with money. Let's not talk about that. Since we've met, let me buy you a drink. You can order anything you want. The other person stroked their chin as they thought. In the end, they asked for a coconut juice. Even though Su Yufei was surprised, she didn't say anything. Maybe some people were tired of drinking alcohol and wanted to try something else. While waiting, Mr. Cat took the initiative to ask, Madam, did you come here for a blind date? Blind date. It seems like it's a blind date too. To be honest, I came here looking for a husband. Su Yufei's mood dropped a little as she said this. But the other person stabbed her again. Oh, does that mean your husband cheated on you? What was he saying? How was Su Yufei supposed to reply? This handsome guy was very serious, but the things that he was saying were not very serious. How should I say it? Well, it was a misunderstanding. The coconut juice had arrived. Mr. Cat drank his coconut juice as he continued to make explosive remarks. What kind of misunderstanding? Could it be that you cheated on him? The drink that Su Yufei was about to take almost came out of her mouth. She tried her best to maintain a smile. Can we not talk about these things? Let's talk about you. I want to know more about you. She thought that this handsome guy was just doing his own thing. What he said wasn't hidden. It was the sort of behavior that only an extremely confident person would have. Thinking about his profession, her opinion of him did not decrease, and had actually increased. At least not being afraid to offend others meant that his status was not normal. Perhaps knowing that the things he had said were not appropriate, he started to apologize to Su Yufei. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that you were the one who cheated. You're so beautiful. How could you be the one who cheated? The cheater is definitely your husband. So did you come here to fight the mistress? Su Yufei smiled awkwardly. Was there any difference between these words and the words that he had just said? She suddenly felt that she didn't have the right chemistry with him and that they would never be compatible. After a simple chat, the result was awkward silence. The two of them silently drank their beverages and did not say anything. Just then, someone else came, which just so happened to break the awkward silence between the two. When Su Yufei saw the person who was coming, she felt as if she had found a savior. It's you. Come over here so that I can argue with you. Huh? Are you out of your mind? Yao Xiaoming, who was wearing a dog mask, sat on the other side of Su Yufei. She randomly ordered a Coke, and looking at Su Yufei, she said, "Nice mask?" "Yeah, I specially customized it. It's 999 gold. It looks pretty good, right?" Yao Xiaoming shook her hand helplessly. "It looks good, but it's not suitable for you. If you wear this mask to find him, he won't change his mind." It was as if he had heard some gossip. Mr. Cat looked over at Yao Xiaoming and greeted her. "Hello, madam." "Oh, hello." The two of them scanned each other's thoughts. Yao Xiaoming frowned. She seemed to feel something was a little off. Su Yufei introduced them. "This is Mr. Cat, an actor. We just met." "Yeah, just now." Mr. Cat continued to drink his coconut juice. "I'm also very happy to meet you, but I didn't expect." Yao Xiaoming looked at Mr. Cat and said, "You really are an actor." "Yes." Mr. Cat did not notice the implication in her words. He just calmly drank his coconut juice. With Yao Xiaoming's addition, the group's conversation became more heated. During the discussion, Su Yufei found out that Mr. Cat usually worked overseas. She was surprised and said that he was an international superstar. As they became more familiar with each other, she also spoke about her situation with Lin Fan. Of course, she had embellished the truth. Yao Xiaoming laughed. She did not expose her lies. Her purpose was to monitor Su Yufei, so she did not need to interfere with other things. Mr. Cat, on the other hand, listened with great interest and would occasionally express his opinions. "You said that you made a small mistake and your husband ignored you and even fired you." "Yes, it's ridiculous, right?" Daring to say it meant that she was relieved. Su Yufei remembered when it was when she first started dating, and when Lin Fan had made his only mistake. It was her birthday. Lin Fan had actually bought her a helicopter. To this day, she still didn't understand. What was the meaning of giving a girl a helicopter? What kind of straight man thinking was that? At the time, she was about to burst when she had seen that there was a large and clumsy helicopter in such a huge gift box. This was what Lin Fan had said. "Yufei, I bought a helicopter so that we can watch the sunset together. I even got the license for you." A black book was displayed in front of her, which she looked at with a helpless and upset expression. The first thought that came to her mind was, Lin Fan had bought the helicopter for himself. He was only doing what he had wanted to do. That she wasn't important at all. What happened after that? Mr. Cat asked. Su Yufei supported her chin and said, "I ignored him for a few days, and a few days later he bought me a yacht and took me diving at the beach." Hearing this, Yao Xiaoming secretly said, "What a few days, it was clearly a month." Also, CEO Lin had sent you 10 yachts. Why did you not say that? Those yachts are still at Ocean Group's warehouse now. Then your husband is actually pretty good. He even knew to buy you yachts. No, he isn't good at all. Su Yufei finished her last drink. Her face was flushed. If he knew that he was in the wrong, he shouldn't have left me. The others knew that she was drunk. She was blaming everything on her husband, even though she was the one who had made the mistake. Mr. Cat patted her shoulder and told her, "Listening to your description, I think that there is still room for recovery. If you can lower your stance and apologize to your husband properly and let him have a good time, perhaps you will be able to salvage the relationship." What kind of outrageous words? What did I just hear? Yao Xiaoming was sweating. Su Yufei, on the other hand, had listened. For the first time, she felt that Mr. Cat's words were a little insightful. She nodded. "What you said makes sense." Chapter 21. Mr. Cat and Ms. Cat. "Don't be so rash. Your husband isn't a womanizer," Yao Xiaoming added. Hearing this, Mr. Cat couldn't help but ask, "Are your husbands the same? Otherwise, how would you know so much, madam?" Su Yufei burst into laughter, saying he was quite the joker. No woman could accept her man being with another woman. It was impossible. "But thank you for your advice. I don't feel so heartbroken anymore," she said. pulling a silver moon badge from the gap in her chest. The moon badge was the token of the masked ball ladies, and each only had one. The meaning of giving it away was very clear. Only if you acknowledged him and wanted to continue with him could you pass that badge into his hands. Mr. Cat's expression turned a little unnatural. He didn't reach out to take it right away. If you give it to me, you can't continue with your husband. Turning around, he waved goodbye. I won't take it. I wish you and your husband can reconcile. Yufei was rarely rejected. Far from feeling frustrated, she felt a sense of admiration for this Mr. Cat. Hey, you little slut. You're not falling for him, are you? Yao Xiaoming's mischievous voice sounded. What are you talking about, you green TB*TCH? Haven't you realized that he's actually a girl? Oh, so you can see that. Indeed, as they thought, Mr. Cat had only taken a few steps when she reached up and untied the ribbon binding her hair. Golden as the sun, she shook her head, and her smooth, loose golden hair fell open. Coupled with her stunning figure, she drew everyone's attention. A chorus of wows immediately erupted. Wow, this woman's figure is amazing. She'd be a supermodel if she became one. I think she's just average. She's flat-chested. You don't know anything. There are two kinds of good figures. One is the kind men like, and the other is the kind both men and women like. She's the latter kind, the kind both men and women like. There's a term for it, the golden ratio. Miss Cat, who was also Luna, appeared to be enjoying this attention, but inside, she was a little flustered. She had already said enough nonsense, and she couldn't handle much more. Besides, she wasn't here at the masked ball to find a date. Although her grandmother had told her that a young man named Lin Fan was quite handsome and asked her to foster a relationship with him, she wasn't used to dealing with men. It was then that she saw a familiar figure. With model-like strides, Luna weaved through the crowd and rushed toward that direction. Hello, long time no see, Luna said playfully, tapping the broad back of that person. This small action caused a huge stir in everyone's hearts. No one expected that such an elegant Miss Cat would show such a cute side. Who exactly was the person behind that poker face? Lin Fan turned around and saw Hello Kitty. A hint of confusion flashed in his eyes. It's you? I think we've met. Yes, is your chest better now? Thanks to you, it's much better. It turned out that Lin Fan wasn't participating in the masked ball, but had put on a poker face mask and disguised himself as a bartender. Yufei never imagined that the Lin Fan she yearned for day and night would be dressed up as a waiter. No matter how long that Bloody Mary sat there, it wouldn't summon her beloved. A bartender's job was to mix cocktails. Lin Fan put down the cocktail shaker and asked her to sit down, pushing a glass of coconut milk in front of her. A hint of surprise appeared in Luna's eyes. Oh, how did you know I like coconut milk? Do you have mind-reading powers? No mind-reading, but I have eyes, Lin Fan said, picking up a napkin and gently wiping Luna's pale neck. You need to sip coconut milk slowly to taste its sweet flavor. Luckily, it wasn't tomato juice, or I'd be an accomplice. Touching her neck, Luna grinned. You're quite observant, but I must say, you guessed wrong. Milk is the same color as coconut milk. Lin Fan remained calm, handing Luna a straw. Milk is thick, and coconut milk is light. I can tell the difference. Of course, if you like milk, I can make you a drink. Looking at the poker face in front of her, Luna felt a warmth in her heart. Okay, thank you. One moment. The cocktail shaker in Lin Fan's hands was like a toy, being shaken, tossed into the air, and caught again. His movements were skillful and impressive. No one could have imagined that a company president would have such fancy skills. But Lin Fan did it. After shaking it thoroughly, he poured it into a chilled coffee cup. Lin Fan added whipped cream and sprinkled it with nutmeg powder. Eggnog for you. Of course, it's the non-alcoholic version. Girls who don't drink can have it too. Luna gave a soft okay, but her heart was already surging. This guy was too considerate. What woman could resist him? He was like the male lead in a story, good in every way, except a bit aloof. But conquering such a man and making him fall head over heels for her was every woman's dream. No, she was starting to like this man a little too much. As a believer in remaining unmarried, she quickly gave herself a bucket of cold water. I'm sorry, I have an urgent meeting to attend, so I have to leave first. Thank you for the milk and coconut milk, Luna said, checking her watch and standing up to leave. Her movements were very flustered, as if she really had an urgent meeting to attend. As a result, she left so suddenly that her only moon badge was left on the table. Madam, you forgot something. He had already walked away. Lin Fan pushed off the counter and went after her, coming to the other side of the venue, the bar area. Unexpectedly, he saw two familiar people within his vision. Over there, Yao Xiaoming and Su Yufei were discussing Lin Fan. Hey, isn't that? Su Yufei saw Mr. Cat rushing toward them, and a smile unconsciously appeared on her lips. Especially when she saw her signature golden hair, she quickly stood up. Isn't that international supermodel Luna? Thinking back on everything that had happened, she felt a sudden enlightenment. So, Mr. Cat was Luna. Oh dear, it's nice to see you, but I don't have time to chat with you. Luna seemed to be wary of something. What's the hurry? Let's have a nice talk, Su Yufei said, pulling her hand and sitting her down next to her. She wouldn't let her leave. Just then, Lin Fan arrived in front of them, holding the moon badge. Luna thought, I'm done for. I'm going to fall for him. Yao Xiaoming was the first to realize Lin Fan's identity. She shouted, oh no, in her heart. President Lin had clearly instructed her not to let Su Yufei get close to him. But now, he was the one who came close. I hope Su Yufei didn't notice, she thought, looking aside. Su Yufei's attitude far exceeded everyone's expectations. Chapter 22. I know you're not Lin Fan. A meeting was supposed to be a beautiful thing. Su Yufei made it unpleasant. Looking at Luna's evasive eyes, she guessed what was going on. She stood up and berated Lin Fan. Could you please have some gentlemanly manners? She doesn't like you, but you keep harassing her. What kind of man does that make you? Hey, Su Yufei. Yao Xiaoming was going crazy. Do you know who he is? Lin Fan raised his hand to stop her. He looked at Su Yufei, whom he hadn't seen for a long time, with an indescribable feeling. Once upon a time, his love for her was so deep. He thought of her every moment, cared about her every emotion, and scrutinized each word and sentence he sent, thinking whether it was appropriate. Even under such intense pressure, he still enjoyed it. Anyone who's been in love knows that love can be blinding, even for a very rational person. If there were no accidents, they might have grown old together, bound in marriage. But Su Yufei had made an unforgivable mistake. She had colluded with her ex-boyfriend and caused his family's downfall. Every time he remembered what happened in his previous life, he couldn't sleep. He would get up at night to smoke. Endless tormenting emotions eventually turned into cold indifference on his face. Madam, let her speak. I want to hear what she thinks. It's not a matter of opinion, just girl helping girl. I know you like Miss Cat, but have you ever thought about whether she likes you? If you don't want to make it too embarrassing, you should leave early. We can pretend we didn't see anything. Understood? Mr. Waiter. Luna hurried to clarify, Miss Phoenix, it's not what you think. Actually, it's me. Don't be afraid of his retaliation. I'm here. He won't dare to do anything. Su Yufei still hadn't realized that the person in front of her was Lin Fan. Her eyes were completely drawn to Luna. Her desire to show off in front of her idol was taking over everything. She walked towards Lin Fan with the haughtiness of a phoenix. The height difference between the two was considerable. Even with her high heels on, Su Yufei could only see Lin Fan's chin when she looked up. In that instant, she felt as though she was struck by lightning. This angle was so familiar. She then examined his figure and scent. His figure was quite similar. The scent was a cologne type, and she remembered Lin Fan wouldn't wear perfume. In the dim lighting, she made the most accurate judgment. The man in front of her was not her husband, Lin Fan. 10 years of observing details based on love is not something to take lightly. Okay, if it wasn't Lin Fan, she could do whatever she wanted. I think you have something in your hand. Show me? Even if you don't show it, I know what it is. It's the moon badge that you stole from Miss Cat. A hint of anger flashed in Lin Fan's eyes. He questioned Su Yufei, are you sure you want to talk to me in this tone? Haha, I'm being quite polite. Young man, let me tell you, be humble. Everyone who comes here is wealthy, not someone you can afford to offend, she said, still oblivious, using the softest words to say the harshest things. Just then, Luna hurried over to mediate. First, she asked Su Yufei to go back to her seat and wait. Then, she explained to Lin Fan, she's my friend. Don't mind her. I don't mind, but I can't stand her attitude. Although Luna was suspicious, Lin Fan returned the moon badge to her, drawing her attention. So she didn't think too much and just said, thank you. I'll come to drink your coconut milk sometime. The crisis was easily resolved after Luna took the badge. Humph. Lin Fan didn't look at Su Yufei any longer. He left their sight without turning back. Su Yufei was still relentless, criticizing Lin Fan. Look at him. His emotions are so unstable. I bet his wife cheated on him, and he's here to look for a backup. Miss Cat, let me tell you, you shouldn't associate with people like that. Hearing this, Yao Xiaoming chuckled. I think you're quite right. Tell me more. Luna had a different opinion. She thought that the gentleman was actually a very nice person. You could tell from his attitude. Someone who is considerate and thoughtful is a good man. You're not falling for him, are you? Don't. Let me tell you. The three of them went back and forth, discussing it for several rounds, without reaching a consensus. Su Yufei was losing her energy, thinking, how strange. Why hasn't Lin Fan come yet? In between, there were many performances. They even invited Su Yufei's favorite singer, Kuan Kuan, to sing a song, but she had no desire to appreciate it. When you have someone in your heart, how can you see anyone else? Su Yufei kept stirring countless glasses of Bloody Mary, imagining the scene where Lin Fan came to recognize her. But that didn't happen. Lin Fan didn't show up. Instead, many cringeworthy men appeared, especially the last one who looked like Lin Fan, who was the most cringeworthy. If she hadn't saved Luna, she was afraid she would have suffered at his hands. Time passed slowly. Su Yufei lost all patience and wanted to go back to her room to rest. Luna also said goodbye to them, saying she had things to do. Yao Xiaoming was full of energy. She stayed behind and walked in a certain direction, disappearing from their sight in the blink of an eye. They arrived at the entrance at dusk. They had been here for half a day. No wonder it felt so long. Grabbing her phone, Su Yufei suddenly woke up, forgetting to add Miss Luna's contact information. She was a very busy person. In the past, no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't get her contact information. She didn't cherish such a good opportunity. Oh, she was truly regretful. Back in her room, Su Yufei opened Lin Fan's contact information again and continued to reply to his messages. Without any fatigue, she was deeply aware that if they restored their relationship, these replies would be Lin Fan's surprise. When the time came, Lin Fan would definitely be moved to tears, just like before. As she was sending the messages, a rather unusual one caught her eye, and her breathing started to quicken. The message read, Yufei, let me ask you, if I were with other women, would you be angry? Although it seemed like a joke, Su Yufei felt deeply anxious. Putting Lin Fan aside for a moment, before her accident, many women wanted to step over her to climb to the top. Some shameless women even dared to offer themselves directly. After the accident, they must be even more unscrupulous. Without her by his side, Lin Fan might not be able to resist the temptation of those vixens. The thing she feared most was that Lin Fan would get angry and just accept them all. Then, she would completely lose the chance to reconcile. No, the only woman around Lin Fan could be her. That woman Yao Xiaoming wasn't allowed either. At this moment, she remembered what Li Shang had said. Would it be better to have a child? Chapter 23, Eric and Mommy. Eric was furious, punching the railing. Since he was young, every woman had been submissive to him. If he asked them to take off their clothes, they would be burning like foxes. Only those two women. Who did they think they were? Weren't they screaming beneath men every night? Was it necessary to pretend to be so refined? In the 2 days on the new Noah, he had suffered more setbacks than in the previous decades combined. Just thinking about it made him feel so frustrated he couldn't vent. At this time, a woman wearing a small dog mask walked in front of him. After looking her up and down, he thought she was an easy target. If I can't handle the refined ones, this ordinary woman is easy to get. Hello, beautiful. Do you have time to have a drink with me? Eric said, blocking her way, skillfully displaying the Patek Philippe watch on his wrist. This watch was not simple. It was a limited edition Patek Philippe. It was the creme de la creme of luxury. It sold for $3 million in the market, in US dollars, not Chinese yuan. Even that woman couldn't help but focus her eyes on the expensive watch. She seemed very interested in it. Eric thought he had it in the bag, and he took off the watch. If you like it, I can give it to you. This is such an expensive watch. Are you sure you want to give it to me? Haha, it's just a watch. It's nothing. If it can make you smile, I'll even pluck the stars from the sky for you. Yao Xiaoming really chuckled and took the watch. Thanks, I have to go now. Wait, you. Eric chased after her. Are you just leaving like that? That's my watch. Didn't you say you were giving it to me? And I thanked you too. Hearing her say that, Eric didn't know what to say. It was true that he had said that. But then he suddenly woke up and reached out. No, give me the watch back. I just said you could play with it for a while. I didn't say I'd give it to you. Are you saying in broad daylight, you want to steal my watch? Yao Xiaoming wasn't happy, pointing at the nearby surveillance camera. The camera can prove that you said you were giving it to me. Are you trying to go back on your words? Are you not a man? That one phrase, are you not a man, almost drove Eric crazy. He grit his teeth and told Yao Xiaoming to get lost. It was just a watch. He could just give it to her. Well, thanks, Yao Xiaoming said happily. She didn't expect to get something just by wandering around. She would take it to President Lin. Heh. Eric's chest rose and fell, too angry to speak. 3 straight losses, 3 straight losses. Who would have thought that a young master with a net worth of billions would have such a miserable day? He lost a lot. No, he had to call Mommy. Hello, Mommy. Your son is being bullied. Come give me 100 million in cash. You idiot. 100 million in cash is so heavy. Should I send it by helicopter? Hey, Mommy, I hear an echo in your voice. I'm right here by your side. Eric turned his head and saw a plump, middle-aged woman walking towards him. The woman wore loose-fitting clothes, and her stomach was as large as if she had put a swimming tube around it. On her ample figure, she wore a great amount of gold jewelry, gold bracelets, gold rings, gold necklaces, and everything else, especially her gold glasses, which were very striking. Seeing this person, Eric threw himself into her arms like a giant baby, saying, Mommy, why are you here? Silly child, Mommy is also a woman. Since your father died, it's been a long time since I've had a meal. Isn't this the perfect opportunity at the masked ball to find some strong young men to have fun with? Have you found a wife for our family? Mommy said, patting his head as if he were a child. 30-year-old Eric said, No, those women only want money. They don't care about my personality. They're the ones who are losing out for not being with me. Hearing this, Mommy didn't understand. She asked him if he didn't show his strength. Like her, she wore her strength on her body. It hadn't even been 2 days, and some young men wanted to play cards with her. Sometimes, being too low-key just wouldn't do. Here, Mommy will give you a checkbook. If any woman says she doesn't love you, just throw money at her head. Women like men who are generous the most. Listen to me, you can't go wrong. Okay, Mommy. After receiving the checkbook, Eric felt confident. He felt like a war god, unstoppable. Even that Lin Fan would probably be trampled beneath his feet. Thinking of something, he said to his mother, Mommy, I found that Lin Fan you asked me to investigate. Actually, he didn't participate in the masked ball. No wonder you couldn't find him. Mommy stroked her triple chin. I knew it. No man is like him. Those men are too weak after only a few moves. I've always wanted to taste Lin Fan's body. This way, I can get revenge for being abandoned by old man Lin. That was something from the past. She was still a young maiden back then. Lin Fan's father was old man Lin. He actually abandoned her and married another woman. It was true she wasn't as pretty as that other woman, nor did she have as good a figure. But was that a reason to abandon her? Over the years, she had tried to argue with him many times, but he would always close his door. Did he think he could hide for the rest of his life? Luckily, recently she saw his daughter-in-law go to a hotel with another man. Haha, satisfying. If she could also take his son, old man Lin would probably have a heart attack out of anger. Ha ha ha. At this moment, Eric suddenly asked, Mommy, I heard that their group's stock price has been falling sharply recently. Is it maybe because of you? I don't have that much free time, Mommy denied. Their family was a foreign trade company, and they actually had some cooperation with Han Hai Group. In terms of benefits, shorting their stock price wouldn't be the most rational thing to do. But that was not important. The ship was about to dock. They could already see the docks of Yunbu City in the distance. Arriving in Yunbu City would mean the beginning of the second stage of the masked ball, getting acquainted. It was also the game that everyone was looking forward to. Eric, Mommy's going to play games with handsome guys. You go find some women to play with. I can't keep you company. Okay, Mommy, have fun. With each step Mommy took, the flesh on her body would shake. But Eric watched such an outrageous scene with great interest. He thought that his mommy had the most womanly charm in the world. Other women were nothing but cheap and common. He walked towards the exit as well. He vowed to get those 2, 3 women and make them scream under him. Then he would say, You were so arrogant? Come on, try to be arrogant in front of your big brother Eric again. Chapter 24. Are you Lin Fan? Answer me. Eric was dumbfounded the moment he got off the ship. So many beautiful women in swimsuits. Since the game was a water event, both men and women had put on swimwear. Just the women he saw, with amazing figures, were no less than a dozen. Of course, none could compare to his mommy. With the host's order, everyone began to team up. Teaming up was simple. Men and women paired up. If you liked someone, you joined their team. After meeting came the getting to know each other stage. The men and women at yesterday's meet and greet had already found their heart's desire. Even if they hadn't, it didn't matter. They could just watch others being lovey-dovey. It was unknown whether they could stand it in their heart, though. Looking into the distance, he saw Mommy surrounded by 5 muscular men, her masked face smiling so wide it almost broke the mask. Looking around, he saw many people in pairs. Only he was alone. Tightening the checkbook in his hand, he walked while searching for those few shameless women. And he actually found one. She was wearing a phoenix mask and a very sexy bikini. Just looking at it made Eric's lower body react. He would get her no matter what. Walking over, he flashed his cash, trying to flirt with Su Yufei. "We meet again, Miss Phoenix." Su Yufei was startled and turned around. Seeing the figure not even 5'7", she twitched her lips, trying to squeeze out a smile, and nodded at him. That was the extent of her politeness. Eric was furious. What was with her, still acting all high and mighty? He stopped pretending, took out a pen, and scribbled on his checkbook, "Is 10 million enough to buy you for one night? If not, then 20 million. The check was pushed in front of Su Yufei. Her already bad expression completely crumbled. "What do you take me for? I warn you, if you don't leave, I will call the police." Although she needed money, she wouldn't sell herself. Eric acted as though he didn't hear her and wrote another one. "How about 30 million? She sneered and mumbled something about him being mentally ill, stretched her long legs, and left. Damn it. Tearing the check to shreds, Eric was still not satisfied. At the same time, his evil desire for Su Yufei reached its peak. He even had the idea of getting her, no matter what the cost. So, he calmed down and followed her. The teams were mostly formed, but Su Yufei still couldn't see Lin Fan anywhere, even though she had searched the entire water park. She had been in love with Lin Fan for 10 years. It was impossible that she wouldn't recognize him. As she walked, she thought of a good idea. If she couldn't find Lin Fan, she would look for Yao Xiaoming. She was definitely on Lin Fan's team. Opening her phone to call her on WeChat, she found she had been blocked long ago. So, she could only search aimlessly. Finally, she found her by the pool. Yao Xiaoming was talking to the poker-faced man from yesterday. Looking at this man's strong body with 8-pack abs, she somehow felt a sense of familiarity. Walking over, she started mockingly, "Oh, isn't it our dear Xiaoming? How did you get involved with another man?" Yao Xiaoming twisted her ample hips, every move attracting a lot of attention. Even Yao Xiaoming had to admit it. Her figure was a killer for men. Any man who looked at her would be enchanted. Of course, Lin Fan was an exception. He didn't even look at Su Yufei, as if that beauty didn't exist. "What are you doing here?" "Oh, mister, you're a bit too confident, aren't you?" Su Yufei never thought that this man would think she was looking for him. Please, did he have to be so confident? Wasn't he just trying to get her attention? Men were the same with their tricks. She was already tired of it. Thinking of it, she'd play with him. He'd reveal his true self just like other men. So, Su Yufei made an oops sound, pretending to trip, and accidentally grabbed Lin Fan's hand. "Sorry, it's too heavy. I lost my balance for a moment." As she said it, she also pressed her chest against Lin Fan's hand, attracting jealousy and envy, especially from the guy with the checkbook. Seeing that Lin Fan didn't react, her expression changed instantly. Her advances couldn't even sway his expression a bit. This guy had amazing self-control. But could he handle this next move? "Oh no, my tie is loose. Could you help me fasten it?" She intentionally loosened her swimsuit top. The top that was barely covering her was now almost falling off. That round curve hit all men's nerves. What was Lin Fan's expression? When Su Yufei looked up, he still had no expression, just like he did at their wedding. No way. Could this man be her husband, Lin Fan, whom she missed day and night? To test it, she asked, "Who are you? Can you take off your mask and let me see?" "I can't. The rules say you can't take off your mask." Su Yufei yelled. "Aren't you the one who made the rules? You can take it off if you want to." Lin Fan still said calmly, "I don't know what you're talking about. Madam, if you continue to break the rules, I will have you kicked out." She was scared. She didn't want to be kicked out. Then she wouldn't be able to see Lin Fan. She could only plead with the man before her. "So, can you please help me tie my tie? If I don't fasten it, I'll be exposed." "You don't have to bother him, I'll do it." Yao Xiaoming finally found an opportunity and offered to help Su Yufei with her tie. Of course, she didn't want that. "Get away. I don't need your help. I want this gentleman to help me." Damn you. I can help you, even though you're walking away and being picky. Yao Xiaoming ignored her explanation and just went ahead. Taking advantage of this moment, Lin Fan escaped Su Yufei's grasp. You know, why are you so big? If you were smaller, you could operate it yourself? You're a landmine, big sister. I think you're jealous. With your figure, Lin Fan wouldn't even look at you. Go to hell. Yao Xiaoming used one hand to grab the tie, and the other foot to kick Su Yufei into the pool. Without her swimsuit top, Su Yufei panicked, quickly covered her top, and glared at the other woman. Give me back my swimsuit. Yao Xiaoming held up her trophy with a heh. Sorry, it's mine now. And I have a standard figure. It's clearly that you are too oversized. After saying that, she ran away. Being exposed as she got up, Su Yufei was stuck in the pool, not daring to come out. She could only see Yao Xiaoming and the man who looked like Lin Fan leave. While so many perverted men were looking at her, she finally realized the pain of not having Lin Fan by her side. Where are you, Lin Fan? Chapter 25. I'll make a bet with you. Lin Fan was annoyed, taking a sip of champagne. It was not for any other reason than there were too many women around him. It was not that he was showing off. He didn't actually want to host a masked ball. But Lisa, the president of Huachuang Group, was very interested and urged him many times to have the event on time, so she could feel the vitality of the young people. The two companies were in the midst of a collaboration. The board of directors decided that holding the masked ball successfully and beautifully would be good for their stock prices. Mr. Pokerface, then I'll join your team, Luna said. She didn't know when she came. Without any second thought, she wanted to join his team. But he was a waiter now and didn't plan on playing that happy-go-lucky game. Lin Fan politely declined. I have work to do and probably won't be able to play games with you, madam. If you want, you can find this lady. I believe you two can have fun. The person he was pointing to was Yao Xiaoming. She was now watching the contestants who had fallen into the water, laughing to herself. Being called out by Lin Fan, she exclaimed a sound and immediately reacted. Okay. Miss Cat, if you want to play, I can play with you. Yao Xiaoming was very good at carrying out his orders. Lin Fan knew he was right to ask her for help. At this time, Su Yufei waved her hand from the side and let out a sigh of regret. Oh, the game looks fun, but it's a shame I don't have a teammate. You two should go have fun. I'll wait for you here. Su Yufei pretended to be very regretful, but she was actually very happy. If you two play the game, wouldn't I be alone with this gentleman? I want to see if you are Lin Fan. Looking at her, Lin Fan wondered why Su Yufei was such a pain. They had just moved to another place, hundreds of meters away. Su Yufei, after having her top stolen, was actually able to change her clothes and come looking for them. When he loved her, she paid no attention to him. Now that he didn't love her, she was all over him. Not wanting to be alone with her, Lin Fan said, I've thought about it. It's not bad to join the game to relax. At least I don't have to be with some people. Su Yufei's face turned dark, and she questioned Lin Fan. What do you mean? You just said you had work, now you don't? If you're going to join, then I'm going to join too. Lin Fan's expression was indifferent. Whatever, but I'm not going to team up with you. Why not team up with me? It's my first time playing a game like this. It looks quite fun. Yao Xiaoming took a step forward and grabbed Lin Fan's arm. Seeing this, Su Yufei exploded. She quickly rushed over and grabbed Lin Fan's other arm. I don't care. You can only team up with me. That Yao Xiaoming, stop being so shameless. How dare you steal my man? Do you know who he is? Just cozying up like that. Damn you. In anger, Yao Xiaoming simply let go of her hand and decided to challenge Su Yufei. It was her own fault for running her mouth. While they were pinching each other, Luna walked over. Why don't I team up with you? Okay. Lin Fan knew his identity had been exposed. Rather than being entangled with Su Yufei, he would rather play some games with Luna. After all, she was the heir to Huachuang Group. Having a good relationship with her would be good for Han Hai Group. At this moment, someone suddenly yelled, I object. The three women were startled. They turned their gazes toward the person. Eric was so angry he was about to explode. He couldn't take it anymore. He pointed at Lin Fan's head. I want to challenge you. We'll compete in that happy-go-lucky race. If you lose, you have to give me one of those women, understand? I'm asking you, do you dare to bet? Don't always hide behind women. You're a loser, you know? His words were full of provocation and anger. Lin Fan squinted his eyes, quickly searching for the identity of this person in his mind, finally settling on the name. Eric from Elf Trading Company, Ltd. His mother, Li Mei, had some conflicts with his father. But he was still young back then and didn't have many memories. His father had said Li Mei was too aggressive, had pursued him, and had been rejected. He had not thought that this was her son. Out of politeness, Lin Fan reached out his hand. "Hello, Mr. Eric. It's a pleasure to meet you." Eric didn't fall for that. He didn't shake his hand. While secretly looking at Su Yufei, he took out a check and wrote 50 million on it. He handed it to Lin Fan. "This check is for you. As long as I lose, you can take it and cash it." "Oh, you really want to compete with me?" Lin Fan didn't even look at the check, letting it fall to the ground. What he was interested in was Elf Trading Company, Ltd. Was it possible that they were the ones buying the dirt on the Han Hai Group? Otherwise, why would they intentionally be looking for trouble? It couldn't be because of jealousy. That was such a boring reason. "Okay, I'll bet with you, but I don't want your money. I want shares of your company. If you lose, just give me 0.1% of your shares. According to your company's market value of 30 billion, that's about 30 million Chinese yuan." Eric thought about it. Lin Fan didn't want 50 million, but 30 million in shares. Wasn't that stupid? Everyone said he was a business genius. But now, it seemed that it was just empty talk. "You just wait to lose," he said harshly, then looked Su Yufei's voluptuous figure up and down again. The fire of lust ignited once again. Su Yufei took a step back in fear. She felt like she was being harassed. The main thing was, what if Lin Fan lost? Wouldn't she be ravaged by that bastard? "You can't lose. If you lose, I will never forgive you." As soon as the words left her mouth, she regretted it. She was not Lin Fan's lover now. What if Lin Fan intentionally lost the competition? She would be in big trouble. Quickly changing her tone, she smiled and waved to Lin Fan. "I believe in you. If you win, I'll go to your room tonight." Yao Xiaoming's expression was dazed. She didn't expect Su Yufei to have such a thick skin. Lin Fan acted like he didn't hear her. He was not competing for Su Yufei, but for Han Hai Group. The two of them walked onto the track. According to the rules, the boys had to carry the girls they teamed up with. But Eric didn't have a teammate, so he could only carry a 50-pound bucket of drinking water. On the other hand, Lin Fan had Luna on his team. "Get on. I'll take you for a ride." "How enjoyable will it be?" "It will definitely be a ride where you feel like you're flying." Lin Fan reached out his hand. When their hands touched, he bent over slightly and picked up the 5'9" Luna with one hand. On the other side, Eric was so jealous that his face turned red. But there was nothing he could do. Without a girl to team up with, he could only put the water bucket on his shoulder. The host shouted, "The race begins." The two of them started running. Although Lin Fan was carrying Luna, his steps were steady. In just a few steps, he went through the first reverse running stage. At this moment, his phone rang. Chapter 26. Do you want to experience what it feels like to fly? Su Yufei was dumbfounded. Why did Lin Fan stop? Was he really going to lose her to that idiot Eric? She didn't want that. "You need to calm down, you slut." He is not the kind of man to give his things away easily. "You say you loved each other for 10 years? More like President Lin pining over you, I say." Su Yufei was at a loss for words. She could only muster the words, "Mind your business." Over there, Lin Fan's expression was a little heavy after answering the phone. It seemed that the call was very important to him. Looking at his chest, Luna couldn't help but ask, "Is it that important? Maybe I should get down. It's not good for you to talk on the phone like this." "No need. You have a great figure. Please wait for me a while." After answering the call, a male voice came through the phone, excited. "President Lin, the matter you asked me to investigate has results. I have been investigating the flow of funds for the past few days and found that the main backer for those fake news companies it's highly likely that they're the company that buys the trending search topics. I know you're surprised right now, but the data doesn't lie." At this moment, Lin Fan's eyes were calm, and he said, "Thank you. I'll treat you to dinner sometime." After hanging up the phone, he asked Luna, "Where is Eric?" "He's at the 4th checkpoint. When he passed by a moment ago, he even mocked you, saying you had no stamina and couldn't last as long as he could. In bed, you probably only last 3 minutes." Luna's imitation was very similar. Lin Fan was a little angry. After reminding her to hold on tight, he stepped on the gas and began running. He was fast and didn't stop at the narrow plank bridge, which everyone had to be careful of. He stepped steadily on the slippery rollers, like he was walking on flat ground, and passed them in a few steps. When Eric looked back and saw Lin Fan coming at an incredible speed, he panicked. He knew he was about to be caught. He actually threw the water bucket into the water on the side. "Which idiot threw a water bucket on my head?" Eric didn't care about others. Without the burden, he was now the incarnate of Usain Bolt. He's cheating. Look, he's cheating. Humph. Lin Fan snorted and started to accelerate and move through the checkpoints. In no time, he caught up with Eric. The two arrived at the final stage, which was a climbing stage. They needed to use ropes to climb. Whoever climbed to the high platform first would win. Although Eric was surprised at Lin Fan's speed, he was certain he would win. There was only one rope, so how could he possibly lose? He leaped forward, grabbed the rope, and began to climb. Lin Fan lost the rope and stayed where he was, seeming to give up. No way, you idiot. Why did you answer the call at such a crucial time? Yufei anxiously paced back and forth, saying he wouldn't lose, but now he was about to lose. No matter what, she wouldn't accept this outcome. Yao Xiaoming paused, unable to understand why President Lin would lose. He was usually very rational. He shouldn't make such a mistake. The audience also came to a conclusion. That guy has definitely lost. Whoever gets the rope will win. Why can't he jump over and pull the person in front down? I think he still has a chance. Are you Superman? He's carrying a woman. How can he jump over? If you're strong enough, you can. On this side, Lin Fan didn't put Luna down. Instead, he took a few steps back to get a running start. Everyone was dumbfounded. How could he possibly jump over? Do you want to experience what it feels like to fly? He asked Luna. I want to, Luna wasn't ready, but Lin Fan started running. Her heart was beating fast. She wrapped her arms around Lin Fan's neck and closed her eyes. But the result was beyond everyone's expectations. Lin Fan's running speed slowed down, and finally he stopped before the finish line. In front of everyone, he picked up his phone with one hand and quickly dialed a number. With the phrase, "Please help me," a dada sound echoed in the sky, and a strong wind picked up. What's going on? Eric, buffeted by the strong wind, looked up and saw something that made him yell out, "Is that even allowed? Did you come with a helicopter to complete the race?" Everyone was dumbfounded. A helicopter? What was going on? As the helicopter steps descended from the sky, Lin Fan grabbed them with one hand and said to Luna, "I'll take you for a flight." What? I can't open my eyes. The wind is too strong. The two slowly ascended, pulled by the helicopter. First, they passed Eric in midair, and then they reached the high platform leading to victory. In the air, Luna barely opened her eyes and saw that she was floating in the air. Then, she looked at Lin Fan beside her. He was so handsome. His chest muscles were so big, and the prominent veins on his arms looked very powerful at the moment. The cracks in her anti-marriage belief grew bigger. She had the idea that living with this person would be very interesting. How romantic. Yufei, looking at Lin Fan, was filled with regrets. Why hadn't she realized that he was so good? Had she been blind before? Yao Xiaoming added, "You were not only blind, but also heartless." If it were her, she would definitely not let President Lin leave her side, even if that meant working overtime for the rest of her life. Lin Fan didn't pay attention to the crowd's gasps of surprise. After reaching the high platform, he slowly lowered Luna. "Are you happy?" Luna nodded vigorously. Flying for a bit was fun, but her legs were a bit weak. But she was very happy and excited. "I'm glad you're happy. If there's a chance in the future, we can play more. Wait for me here." Striding forward, Lin Fan forcefully grabbed Eric's hand and pulled him up. Eric was almost out of energy. Eric couldn't believe Lin Fan would help him. He had been bad-mouthing him earlier. To those comments, Lin Fan had this to say. "Competition is second, friendship is first. No matter who wins, you're my friend." Eric's heart actually felt warm. He had an urge to apologize for his stupid behavior earlier. Lin Fan patted him on the shoulder and said, "The bet was just a joke. How can I take your 30 million in shares? Forget about it." After he finished speaking, he turned around to leave. Eric called out to him, "Lin Fan, I want to apologize to you. It was my fault. I will transfer you the 30 million shares I lost. If you ever need help, look for your brother here." "Okay." A faint, charming smile appeared at the corner of Lin Fan's mouth. Then he turned his head and said, "Sorry for making you spend so much. It's okay. A few tens of millions, I can afford it." The two seemed to have become good friends of over a decade, laughing and talking. Only after Eric left did Lin Fan return to his usual coldness. Eric probably wouldn't know. The 30 million shares of Elf Trading Company were much more important than 50 million in cash. "Hello, are you Lin Fan? I just heard that Eric called you that," Luna suddenly said. Chapter 27. My temper is bad, don't mess with me. With the rise of the internet, the first batch of companies to jump on the bandwagon emerged. Elf Trading Company, Limited was one of them. It was a company that focused on cross-border e-commerce. They sold their daily products on overseas websites through the internet and harvested profits from it. In recent years, they were in the era of live streaming sales. The Lee family had seen the potential in advance and made a fortune. Han Hai Group had considerable cooperation with them, selling their products to overseas platforms. Their latest quarterly products would focus on the online market. If they could acquire Elf Trading, they wouldn't have to worry about channels to sell their products, and the cost would also be greatly reduced. Lin Fan was processing documents while planning for the future of the group. At that moment, there was a hurried knocking on the door. President Lin, I have something important to report. Come in. It was their break time, and both of them had taken off their masks. After Yao Xiaoming came in, she immediately handed a document to Lin Fan and said, the company just sent a notice saying that the finished product manufacturing factory is on fire. Yao Xiaoming knew that a factory fire meant they wouldn't be able to deliver on time. The suppliers definitely wouldn't accept it. They might even have to compensate for breach of contract. Compensating for the breach was a small matter. If their products could not be released, the capital wouldn't be returned. That would be a fatal blow for a company that relied on cash flow. They had barely survived the last leak incident, and now there was a fire. The products were almost ready for production, and then this situation occurred. It was too unusual. President Lin, could this be the work of those people who bought the trending topics? They just want us to die. How many factories do we have left? Lin Fan asked, holding back his anger. Yao Xiaoming didn't want to hide the truth and said, about 3. How come only 3? We had 8 factories, didn't we? 2 are on fire, and 3 are on strike. President Lin, we only have 3 manufacturing factories left. Lin Fan was furious, breathing heavily. This scene scared Yao Xiaoming. It was the first time she had seen Lin Fan so angry. It seemed that the factory fire had completely infuriated him. After calming down, Lin Fan instructed Yao Xiaoming, please notify the person in charge of the remaining factories. Ask them to be careful about fire safety and also to prepare to go into mass production as soon as possible. And stabilize the employees' emotions. Give promotions to those who deserve them and raises to those who deserve them. Okay. Before leaving, Yao Xiaoming said, President Lin, what's done is done. I don't want you to ruin your health. If you need anything, please call me. Xiaoming will come right away, no matter the time, no matter what it is. Lin Fan smiled, thank you. I'm lucky to have an employee like you. Let's watch a movie together sometime, maybe a horror movie that you like. Yao Xiaoming's body trembled, and she nodded vigorously. Okay. After she left the office, Lin Fan thought for a while and dialed someone's phone number. Hello, Lucien. Is what you told me this morning true? President Lin, it's true. Those fake news companies are shell companies. The main people in charge are all fake. If I didn't have some connections, I wouldn't be able to find their actual controllers. Lin Fan asked again seriously, I'm confirming this with you again. Was it really the Iron Blood Club that did this? A definite voice came from the other end of the phone. Yes, I can confirm it. Moreover, I have evidence. President Lin, do you know a player named Li Shang? Yes, he used to be a player for the Daheng Club that our group sponsored. He was fired and blacklisted not too long ago. Lu Xian told him something shocking, which was that Li Shang had recently been hired by the Iron Blood Club and was getting ready to play a game. He was on the blacklist in the football industry. Hiring him at this time was basically going against the Daheng Club. The Daheng Club had a close relationship with Han Hai Group. It was hard not to connect the dots. And besides, Li Shang is the sister-in-law's. He didn't dare to say the rest. Lin Fan knew very well, and he was very grateful for his effort. Are you feeling better lately? If you have any difficulties, just tell me. Thank you. You've helped me many times, President Lin. Lin Fan. Back in high school, we promised that the brothers would get together. It's almost been 10 years. I was wondering, let's find time to get together? Okay, I'll contact you guys when I'm free. After exchanging a few pleasantries, the call was hung up. Lin Fan looked at the bright moon outside the window and lit another cigarette. The smoke filled the air, and he thought about the Iron Blood Club. Others didn't know, but the person in charge of their club was one of his good brothers. It wasn't a good feeling to be betrayed by your brother. Back then, his group was going to invest in the Iron Blood Club, but the board of directors rejected it because they thought the club's financial report wasn't good. They chose the better Daheng Club. That good brother blamed everything on Lin Fan. He thought it was intentional. Good brothers for many years fell out over this. Since then, he had left their group. It seemed like he had a good reason to target Han Hai group. Knock, knock, knock. There was another knock on the door. Lin Fan put out his cigarette in the ashtray and told the person to come in. To his surprise, a woman with a graceful figure came in, wearing only a nightgown, with a lot of white skin showing on her chest. What are you doing here? Can I come? It's a normal thing for a husband and wife to be alone together. Su Yufei's face was flushed. She looked like she had drunk a lot. Lin Fan turned away. You shouldn't have come. Do you understand, Miss Su? We are no longer husband and wife. If there is no necessary matter, please do not enter my office casually. Su Yufei's eyes turned red instantly. You didn't used to call me that. Tears were the most worthless thing. Lin Fan knew this very well. In the past, he wouldn't hesitate to hug Su Yufei. Now, humph. Security personnel, please escort Miss Su out. Su Yufei's pupils contracted. She couldn't believe that Lin Fan's first reaction when he saw her cry was to kick her out, instead of comforting her. Or, did he no longer want to do something so simple, such as comforting? How can you be so cold-hearted? I'm not going out. Su Yufei held herself to the chair, biting her lower lip, trying her best not to cry. She didn't believe that Lin Fan could be so ruthless. Were their years of love and companionship all fake? The security guard stepped forward. Ms. Su, please cooperate. I'm not going. Lin Fan is my husband. Why should I leave? You should leave. Then don't blame us for getting rough. Two security guards grabbed Su Yufei's arms, planning to forcibly take her away. Seeing this, Lin Fan waved his hand, signaling them to back down. Chapter 28. Su Yufei, you're really a slut. You guys go out first. I'll call you if I need anything. Lin Fan first politely asked the security personnel to leave, then walked coldly to Su Yufei's side and scolded her. Don't think I don't know the things you're doing behind my back. 2 years ago, on Christmas, I invited you out, but you refused. You actually went out with your ex-boyfriend, Li Shang, didn't you? Last year when I was on a business trip, you and Li Shang had a party at the villa, right? And, this year, you said that the diamond necklace I bought for you was lost by accident, but in reality, it was a gift for Li Shang, isn't it? Lin Fan's words were like silver bullets, accurately hitting Su Yufei's bestial heart. How did you know? Su Yufei looked up and saw Lin Fan's deep and cold eyes. I not only know about your affairs with Li Shang, but I also know that you have been secretly sending classified information to other companies. He looked at Su Yufei contemptuously, went back to his desk, and picked up a document, throwing it in front of her. You think you did it flawlessly? Look at this evidence. There are also records of you and Li Shang using loopholes in accounting to seize the company's assets. Su Yufei, how do you explain this? Her face turned pale instantly, and she chose to remain silent. Or, rather, she didn't know how to justify herself. Thousands of words were finally condensed into a sentence as light as a mosquito's buzz. I was wrong. I really know that I was wrong. Lin Fan paused and then said calmly, You don't know you were wrong. You're just scared. Scared that you don't have money to spend. Scared that your reputation will stink, right? You tell me. Su Yufei lowered her head. I will compensate. Let's not talk about anything else. Compensate? Haha. Lin Fan suddenly grabbed her by the neck, glaring at her. You can compensate the money, but can you compensate me for 10 years of love, Su Yufei? Or are you going to use this body of infidelity to compensate me? Following her fair neck, Lin Fan's hand moved down until he touched that softness. Su Yufei closed her eyes, not resisting like before. As if wanting to vent his anger, Lin Fan's hands were unrestrained, fully releasing his masculinity. Make a call, he said, temporarily letting go of his grip. Lin Fan's sudden words left Su Yufei at a loss. Call who? You know very well, I don't need to explain it. Okay, I'll call. Beep beep beep, the call was connected. A man's surprised voice sounded, Fei, you're actually calling me on your own initiative. I'm so happy. I have good news for you. The Iron Blood Club has hired me, with a yearly salary of 12 million. Why aren't you saying anything? There's a lot of heavy breathing. Fei, do you have a cold? Su Yufei covered her mouth, trying her best not to make any sound. I'm running. Oh, you're already very thin. You don't need to lose weight. Li Shang didn't notice the situation on the other side of the phone. He kept saying to himself, Fei, what should we do with the money? Lu Wei from the Iron Blood Club said that if everything goes well, we can go live abroad. What do you think? Do you want to stay in the country or go out and play? I was thinking, beep beep beep. The call was suddenly hung up. Li Shang thought it was strange, so he sent a WeChat message. Feifei, are you really okay? You seem weird today, kind of like you have a cold. The message was not answered. Or rather, Su Yufei had no way to reply. Her phone fell to the ground, and she could no longer hide her expression and voice. The security guards outside seemed to hear some strange noises. They wanted to open the door, but they were stopped by another person. Are you stupid? President Lin is having fun. Are you going to disturb him? I thought it was something else. It just shows that you're a virgin and you don't understand anything. Go back and watch some DVDs. No one knows how long it had been. Lin Fan wiped his hands and didn't even glance at Su Yufei. Put your clothes on. Don't let anyone see and misunderstand. You. Su Yufei couldn't believe it. She was in the middle of it, but Lin Fan just touched her and it was over. Are you even a man? Su Yufei, don't think I don't know what you're planning. I won't leave any evidence when I do things. Also, he raised Su Yufei's chin. My punishment for you is far from over. You'd better wait for it. Okay, you can go back now. Lin Fan returned to his cold self and sat in his chair, looking at the report, being played with and then suddenly cast aside. She was extremely uncomfortable, not being satisfied. But what could she do? Next time she might be played by Lin Fan again. Then I'll go first, get some rest early. By the way, smoke less, it's bad for your health. She specifically instructed him before leaving. The door slammed shut, and Lin Fan closed his eyes to relax. What he did just now was beyond rational, and to be honest, he shouldn't have done it. But what Su Yufei did caused him to lose his mind. So he just used her body to vent his anger. Now that he thought about it, he was glad. If he couldn't control himself, he might have allowed Su Yufei to have a child without protection. With a child, he would have lost the initiative. His father told him, your identity now is not ordinary. Having a child is a good thing, but having an extra child out of nowhere is a bad thing. So, their family was very cautious about marriage. Before getting married, they would ask lawyers to manage their premarital property to prevent themselves from getting scammed in marriage. If there was a divorce, Su Yufei wouldn't get a single penny. That was the reason she couldn't leave him and didn't dare to divorce him on her own. It was also the handle he had to control her. Opening his eyes, Lin Fan switched back to work mode. The quarterly product was about to be released, but the negative factors were increasing. Perhaps he should talk to Lu Wei. Opening his phone, Lin Fan searched for a long time before finding a group chat named New and F4. This was the group chat they had from high school. They hadn't been in contact for a long time now. The latest record in the group was from 10 years ago. Brothers, do you have time to hang out the day after tomorrow night? After the message was sent, Lu Xian and another good brother replied, yes, of course. President Lin is paying. We definitely have to come. Lu Wei didn't say anything. Lin Fan was typing on his phone. Then, 8 p.m. the day after tomorrow, rooftop restaurant, see you there. Aren't you at the masked ball? Will you make it in time? Lu Xian asked. I'll be there in time. The new Noah has already returned. Tomorrow will be the last day of the masked ball. Haha, I heard that your ball is actually a blind date event. So, did you find the person of your dreams? Lin Fan thought for a while and sent, I guess I did. Chapter 29. The Decisions of the Three Women. Meeting, getting to know each other, falling in love. From strangers to lovers. Every step was indispensable. The masked ball built a bridge for the men and women. After crossing this bridge, they might not grow old together, but their experience at the masked ball would be unforgettable. Looking at the many couples who took off their masks and faced each other, Su Yufei felt a little envious. She longed for this kind of heartfelt love. But Lin Fan's impulsive actions last night made her confused. She had clearly lowered her pride and allowed him to play with her. Lin Fan just touched her. As a result, she felt hot all over after returning to her room that night. She couldn't sleep at all. She even had the idea of asking him to sleep with her. With this thought in mind, she couldn't sleep even more. In the end, reason won over desire. She didn't go, but took out her old toys and consoled herself. She couldn't go either. Once she crossed the line, she would have to beg him if she wanted to sleep with Lin Fan in the future. Su Yufei knew she wasn't a slut. Did you forgive me or not? She just couldn't understand Lin Fan's thoughts. Thinking of this, she decided to ask him clearly. Searching for his figure, Su Yufei saw Lin Fan without any effort this time. Mainly because Lin Fan was 6 feet 3 inches, which made him particularly noticeable among the mostly 5 feet 7 inches men. Plus, the muscles he had built. It was too easy to find him. But there were two more people by his side. Yao Xiaoming was fine. She had told her she was going to pursue Lin Fan. The other person was her idol, Luna. Could it be that she liked Lin Fan too? When did Lin Fan become so popular? He was actually quite ordinary, with a cold face every day. Only she liked him. Walking over, she greeted everyone. You came? I thought you gave up and swam back? Yao Xiaoming couldn't help but taunt her right away. Luna, on the other hand, looked puzzled and asked, Aren't you afraid of sharks? Is that what we should be focusing on? Su Yufei's mouth twitched slightly, but she didn't care. She looked at Lin Fan, hoping that he would say something. But there was nothing. Lin Fan didn't even see her. He was busy with his work. She could only sit down in a chair. She chatted with the two girls. At this moment, the host came to the stage, clapping his hands. Everyone, are you ready? The ball is about to begin. A melodious dance tune was played in the venue. The atmosphere had been ignited. The three girls, without even discussing it, took out their own moon badges. This was their proof of love. As for which man to give it to, it was already obvious. Yao Xiaoming called Lin Fan's name and presented her moon badge with both hands. President Lin, this is for you. Thank you for taking care of me. If my mother hadn't met you, I would never have seen her again. So, I want to dedicate my most precious thing to you. I would be very happy if you could accept it. At this time, Luna also said, And me. Although we've only known each other for a few days, I have so much to say. Lin Fan, your chest muscles are too big. I'm curious how you trained them. And your face is so hard. Is it because you're dehydrated? Everyone was full of question marks. Realizing that her words were a bit inappropriate, Luna immediately changed the topic and talked about her feelings these past few days. At first, she didn't know Lin Fan. She thought he was the same as other men, a smooth-talking, unambitious rich second generation. It wasn't until they met that she knew that Lin Fan was indeed a rich second generation, but he was not smooth-talking. Rather, he was a bit reserved and spoke very little. And his chest muscles were indeed very large. As she spoke, she came back to the topic of his chest muscles, quickly stopping herself. In conclusion, she said, So, I want to develop a deeper relationship with you. Yao Xiaoming interrupted her. What do you mean by a deeper relationship? Those are tiger and wolf words, okay? You might have misunderstood. I mean that I want to be friends with Lin Fan and have a deep exchange between friends. Next up was the last person. Su Yufei's idea was different. She looked at Lin Fan and opened her red lips. I'm sorry. I know my apology is a bit late. Wounds are not so easy to heal. But I'll try. From today on, I'll be a good wife, share your worries, change for you, and live for you. Please, think about it carefully. My husband. After saying that, she lowered her head, not daring to look at Lin Fan's expression, afraid that he would be angry. Then she would have no chance left. Luna suddenly said, So, Lin Fan is Yufei's husband. Did you just realize that now? Yes, I'm a bit slow. Lin Fan's reply was simple, just a hum. There was no emotion included in it. No one knew whether he had forgiven them or not. But it was clear that he didn't accept Su Yufei's moon badge. Not only that, but he didn't accept Luna's and Yao Xiaoming's badges either. The reason Yao Xiaoming gave him the moon badge was because of her mother. He had saved her mother, and she was grateful. It turned into dependency on him. It wasn't an expression of love. Luna was easier to understand. She had a direct personality and said what she had to say. From her words, she clearly wanted to be friends with him. As for Su Yufei, the relationship between the two was more complicated. Before that incident happened, Su Yufei was his wife. After that incident, their relationship was already tenuous. His attitude towards her had already said everything. He didn't accept the three girls' moon badges, which really surprised them. Yao Xiaoming quickly accepted it. She would accept whatever choice President Lin made. Luna just said calmly, I see. But I won't give up. Huachuang Group is going to develop the domestic market recently. I believe we'll have the chance to become friends. I don't accept it. Su Yufei's words attracted everyone's attention. Not accepting her moon badge meant he didn't accept her apology. If he didn't accept it, why did he do those things last night? You touched my body, made my face blush, and then suddenly stopped, making me so hot. You're such a jerk. If you didn't plan on forgiving me, why did you do those things to my body? Do you know how anxious I was? That night, I kept thinking about what if you didn't forgive me? I was so anxious I couldn't sleep all night. And your current attitude is, you have no attitude. Please tell me, what do you want? Lin Fan looked her in the eye and said calmly, I want to divorce you. Hearing this, a bitter smile appeared on Su Yufei's face. This outcome was something she had never imagined. Chapter 30. The deeper the love, the deeper the hate. 3 hours later, the ball ended. Some people gain love, some people gain friendship, and some people gain bitterness. After hearing Lin Fan give the answer, Su Yufei left without looking back. No one knew where she had gone or how she was feeling. They only knew that when she left, she was decisive. It seemed like she had made up her mind. Luna had wanted to stay and chat with Lin Fan, but her grandmother had called her back. Huachuang Group and Han Hai Group were working together. They would have many opportunities to meet in the future. So, Luna reluctantly followed her grandmother off the ship. Besides the staff, only Lin Fan and Yao Xiaoming were left. They were both speechless. Yao Xiaoming was just staring blankly at Lin Fan as he cleaned up the bar. Just by looking, she could see that Lin Fan's heart was not at peace. It seemed that saying those words wasn't easy. And it was indeed the case. In the past, how much did President Lin love Su Yufei? How many times did President Lin smile because of Su Yufei? He must have been very happy in his heart. Once, he celebrated Su Yufei's birthday. He had actually communicated with every employee in the design department to design the content of the surprise. He was the president, after all, and they were just small employees. They usually wouldn't even see President Lin. But President Lin was so diligent, discussing every detail of the surprise with them, so that Su Yufei would be happy on her birthday. In the end, they created the biggest surprise, 99,999 roses. From the door of the design department to Su Yufei's office, everything was covered with flowers. Yao Xiaoming was just an ordinary employee back then, and she was touched by this scene. A man who could create surprises for a girl was so love-struck. But what was the result? Not only was Su Yufei unsatisfied, but it hurt President Lin even more. She directly didn't come. She didn't answer any phone calls. At 12 midnight, the whole department was waiting in the company building, stood up by her. They, as outsiders, couldn't help but curse her. Not to mention the protagonist, Lin Fan. His heart must have been very uncomfortable at that time. But he still smiled and apologized to them. I'm sorry, it seems Yufei has something to do and can't come. Everyone, clean up. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. Thinking about it now, it was normal for Su Yufei to get divorced. After all, the deeper the love, the deeper the hate. When President Lin mentioned divorce, his heart must have been burning. What are you thinking about? You're not usually this quiet. Nothing, I was just thinking about what to eat later. Lin Fan wiped his hands and simply suggested, let me treat you to a meal. I'm also hungry. Okay, anything is fine. After the two went ashore, Lin Fan drove his Rolls-Royce to a steak buffet restaurant. Originally, Lin Fan wanted to go to a seafood restaurant. There was a very nice 5-star restaurant where the seafood was very fresh, especially the Australian lobster. But Yao Xiaoming said, I'm allergic to seafood, let's just go have something simple. The steak buffet I often go to is quite good. Nodding, the car turned around. They arrived there. The steak buffet was inside a mall and wasn't very big. After parking the car downstairs, many people gathered around. That's a Rolls-Royce, right? What a cool sports car. Don't touch it. You can't afford to pay for it if it gets scratched. I'm just looking. I didn't expect rich people to eat at a buffet like us. It's rare. Maybe he's tired of eating lobster. The people around them were discussing it, but Lin Fan didn't care and led Yao Xiaoming into the restaurant. The owner of the restaurant saw Lin Fan's designer clothes and his eyes lit up. Wow, a big customer is here. Snatching the menu from a waiter, he quickly came to Lin Fan and Yao Xiaoming with a charming look in his eyes and said politely, Sir, Madam, what would you like to eat? We have all kinds of steak here, A5 Kobe beef, M12 Australian Wagyu. You can choose whatever you want. Lin Fan looked at the menu. The idea of a steak buffet was to order one steak, and then the rest of the items were free to eat. The prices were very cheap, about 100 or so for one serving. What do you want to eat? He asked Yao Xiaoming. Yao Xiaoming wasn't picky, and she said, anything is fine. President Lin, just order whatever you want, and I'll have the same. Then, give us 2 of your highest grade Wagyu beef, medium well, thank you. Okay, anything else? Our king crab is good. They are all fresh imports. Lin Fan handed him the menu. Then bring one of them, and whatever else that's good, you can arrange for us. Having a big order, the owner was very happy. He said okay, and took the order to the back kitchen. The dishes were quickly served. The table was full, including the Wagyu beef, king crab, and many other self-service items. Lin Fan slowly enjoyed the steak. He didn't say anything during the meal. Yao Xiaoming asked him, "Is it to your taste?" "President Lin, you probably don't eat this kind of thing very often, right?" "No, it's quite delicious. And my brothers and I like to eat at buffets." Cutting a piece of beef and putting it into his mouth. "When I was little, my family's financial situation was bad. My father's investment failed, and we owed a lot of money. At that time, we used to go to buffets. Because a buffet was filling, you could eat a lot of food for 20 yuan. The owner of that shop saw that we were familiar with them. Sometimes he even gave us a discount of 2 yuan. We ate at their buffet for 3 years. Later, when I made money, a butler would arrange what I ate, and there was no chance to go to a buffet." Putting down the knife and fork, Lin Fan recalled the past. His few brothers had been working hard together, and now it had been over a decade. But now Lu Wei was, "I'm sorry, I talked too much. I heard a very good story. President Lin, can you tell me more?" Yao Xiaoming looked at him with a smile. "I can." As the two of them were chatting, the food on the table slowly became less. After eating his fill, Lin Fan wiped his mouth and wanted to pay the bill. At this moment, a familiar person walked into the restaurant. "Waiter, give us the best things. Price doesn't matter. I have a lot of money. As long as you can satisfy my girlfriend, you can have a big tip." "Okay, the two of you can have a seat inside." Li Shang walked into the restaurant with a woman. Lin Fan didn't recognize this woman, or rather, there was no one in his memory like this. But Li Shang was calling her his girlfriend. That was interesting. "What's wrong? President Lin? I saw an acquaintance. You can eat first. I'm going to say hello." Lin Fan got up and walked towards Li Shang's table. Yao Xiaoming was curious. What acquaintance was it? Looking over, she saw Lin Fan walking towards another private room. And the man there turned pale when he saw Lin Fan and jumped up from his chair.